our bets. Will we see a grand final reset?
Simon, don't look, man.
Guys, no cheating. For that to happen, Wesley So has to beat Magnus Carlsen in the first match, and we will reveal the bets later. For now, it's time to get to the action. Welcome to the Champions Chess Tour.
He is so stressed out. God, look at that. He's got his hand on his head there.
Checkmate.
Yeah.
Wesley So beats Eduardo Iturrizaga, goes on to the losers final.
There's a little bit lower. And there you go, the first surprise.
Oh no, rookie 4. Oh, it's falling apart for Nodirbek.
He missed it. And are we doing the drinking game? Just resign, and then happens. Nodirbek does just resign. And Wesley So does it for the second time today. He books his spot into the Aimchess Rapid Grand Final against Magnus Carlsen. And I have the bets in my hand. We will reveal these later. Magnus Carlsen, meanwhile, got what he wished for. Wesley So as his challenger in the grand final. It could be a short day of chess or a really long day of chess. And to keep us on top of the big fight in the studio, Grandmaster David Howell, Grandmaster Simon Williams, and International Master Danny Wrench. Danny, we get Magnus versus Wesley in the grand final. What can we expect today?
We all get what we wanted. Magnus Carlsen gets what he wanted. I think what we can expect is what happens when not just two of the best players on the planet right now, but two of the best players in their generation throw down in a high-stakes match. It's going to be a blast. And Magnus, I think he wanted this, and we're going to see if he's up for the challenge.
Is Magnus up for the challenge, and is Wesley up for the challenge? Simon, how impressive was Wesley yesterday?
Very impressive. I mean, he seemed very strong in all areas of the game, the opening, the middle game and the ending. And he's going to have to keep that up to date to have a chance. I mean, he's just getting better and better every game he plays. He started very slow, but now he's in real Wesley overdrive gear.
And he needs to keep that overdrive gear on because he needs to beat Magnus Carlsen twice. David, what will it take for Wesley to get by today?
It will take Wesley being in top form. It might take a bit of luck, and it will need him to just play move by move, game by game. If Wesley takes the lead, I think he's got a great chance, but he cannot let Magnus strike first. That will, I think, pretty much end his chances.
He needs to get his kind of positions from early on. And yesterday, we saw incredible chess from Wesley So. We started with the battle between Wesley and Iturrizaga with a lot on the line. And world number 8, Wesley So, his chess was from another planet.
Ooh, given the compensation, and look at Eduardo's decision. Taking h4, blowing open white's king.
I like it.
I love it.
I don't think Wesley should have done this.
I agree.
This loses a bit of control and gives Eduardo what he wants. He is so stressed out.
Tension. He knows he's so close in this one. He's turned it around. Look at Iturrizaga. He knows he was so close, but now it is falling apart. And that is the end of the game.
Wesley So holds on.
Oh.
It's full of traps and full of tricks. And Wesley's like, you saw the reaction. He's like, oh crap, here we go. Like, what has this kid got in store with some sort of magical preparation? Oh no, rookie 4. Oh, it's falling apart for Nodirbek.
Nodirbek, he reacts. He missed it.
How did he why did he
Pre-moved rook h8. He thought black's rook was going back to d4 to defend the black knight.
Oh my god, that's just, honestly, that's a mistake of youth. You got to call it what it is.
Now it's a hopeless position, just about to be 3 pawns down.
Yeah, it's over.
Nodirbek does just resign, and with that win, Wesley So takes the lead.
What's he played here?
Whoa, breaking through, e5.
What in the world? Wesley So going for the kill.
Nodirbek has had to capture this pawn instead, but look at the wreckage of his structure. This is one-way traffic. Suddenly, Wesley in control.
Good call there, Danny. The knight joins the attack. He takes the pawn, and it's a big mistake. Is there a finish here, David?
Oof. I think it's something to do with knight d5 and the b6 square is calling my name. I'm freaking out. What is it?
It's over.
Yeah. Wait,
he
what
gets
happened?
the draw. I think there was a draw offer that was made, and Wesley just accepts it. Nodirbek played rook d7. It is a deadlock situation, but he just offered a draw. Wesley So asserting his domination in the elimination bracket there. Meanwhile, Magnus Carlsen has been in the winner's bracket from the very start from Monday. Will today be the first victory for Wesley or the second one for Magnus Carlsen on the tour? And Danny, with the qualification into the season playoffs on the line, how much does today mean to Wesley?
I think it's a really good question because you just made me realize that I worry a little bit about Wesley's mindset. You remember what he said in the interview, that he was already excited having gotten back to the loser's bracket because at least he was playing in Division I again. And that's a common tale with Wesley. He has to believe he can do it. He can't settle on the fact that he's only guaranteed a spot to Division I. He's now knocking on the door to Toronto, and he needs to strike here. He needs to take his chances against Magnus and have a confident mindset.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this is his chance. He's got a chance here. If he wins this, he's got his Toronto ticket, and he might not get another chance. So he's got to just play real high quality and be very confident today. This is something that holds him back, I think, in the past, his confidence.
Yeah, and the format of the tour this season means that this is extra high stakes, not just for Wesley, booking his ticket potentially in Toronto, but for everyone else in the tour. If Wesley doesn't win, a slot opens up. Magnus will take the victory, and for everyone else, it comes down to tour points. So Magnus is actually going to have a lot of supporters.
It's kind of funny to me. You don't normally have a lot of people rooting for Magnus because they all want to take him down. But today, I think there's a lot of peers watching who wouldn't mind Magnus Carlsen getting this thing done in 3 games and just relieve the pressure because, as David said, that opens up another spot via the tour points.
Only 8 players will make it to that season final playoff in Toronto. Magnus Carlsen has already booked his ticket. This one is a big, big moment for Wesley So, and he is a fighter and he hates losing.
How much do you hate to lose?
I hate it so much. That probably one of the reasons why I make so many draws. Just it changes your tournament so much. When you have a good tournament and then suddenly you lose a game or 2, it completely alters the direction, the path that you take. I guess I'm kind of a player who's trying to look for perfection, where I make no mistakes. And like if I make no mistakes in a game, like no blunders, or maybe even just very slight errors, then I'll be very happy. It doesn't even matter whether I win or I lose. So my main focus is to play a good game, but 2 draws equals a win. So that's always my math. And I think from a young age, I was always trained to take it 1 game at a time, always play for 2 results, a win or a draw. And that's always been my mindset all these years. So maybe that's why it's very difficult to change. That trick always is you win more games than you lose, and then you're good to go. So.
One of the best players on the planet, Wesley So. But sometimes to win, you have to be willing to lose. Danny, is that something for the world number 8, Wesley So? Is that something that comes in his way to become world number 1?
One of my trainers, a famous trainer, once told me that you could classify everyone's personality into 2 buckets, those who love to win and those who hate to lose. That interview reminded us that Wesley So definitely fits in the bracket of hates to lose. What that means on the board is your personality is going to lean a little less risk, maybe not take your chances when you have it. And so I think that Wesley has to kind of stay confident. He has to remember he just won the Global Chess Championship last year and that he can do this, Simon.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's that thing about the glass. Is it half full or is it half empty? That kind of springs to mind, that confidence that people have. I mean, there's optimists, there's pessimists. And it seems to me that Wesley sometimes doesn't have that belief in himself, which he should have. He's one of the best players of all time, and he needs to have that belief to beat Magnus Carlsen.
Yeah, my big takeaway from that interview is firstly that he will have to fight his nature, that kind of risk-averse style of chess. But also he did mention he takes it move by move, game by game, and that is needed today. It's been the theme of Wesley's tournament, struggling, losing the first match. But ever since then, especially yesterday, playing 2 different matches, it feels like he's in the zone, in the moment right now, and that might help.
Confidence and not letting the fact that he needs to beat the world number 1 twice today. Let that get into his head. That's going to be the key here for Wesley So. But he's done it before. He had a phenomenal run in the 2021 Champions Chess Tour season, beating Magnus Carlsen several times, winning so many of the 2021 season events, making Wesley So the man to beat.
Look at that pawn. That pawn is a monster. There's just no stopping it whatsoever. I mean, Magnus has an amazing chance of striking back
but Magnus blocking the white bishop. Is that just game over?
It is
3 seconds,
game
2
over.
seconds.
There's nothing to be done.
1
apart from
second.
losing a piece.
Magnus fights back.
Wow, look at that reaction from Magnus Carlsen. It is a comeback from the world champions, and we are heading to Armageddon.
He's going to lose on the clock, Wesley, if he doesn't lose on the board. He still needs to save it on the board, especially after that last move, White's rook getting active. Magnus wins.
Wow, look at that. Magnus Carlsen in Armageddon.
It's pretty sick. Like, I came back 5 times when I sort of needed to win. Absolutely insane. I'm just so happy to have pulled through.
Magnus Carlsen there celebrating after many losses to Wesley So in that 2021 season. Wesley So won the Skilling Open in 2020, the Opera Euro Rapid, and along the way took down the then world champion. They have so much history between them. They've been tour rivals for a really long time as well, know each other extremely well. David, what's the psychology there, and how much does that affect not just what's going on the board, but also the fact that you know each other so well?
Yeah, it's pros and cons. Firstly, knowledge of the opponent can help you know their weaknesses, but the problem is they know about you too. And for Wesley, Magnus knows all of his openings there. I've had it myself in the past with rivals when you play them multiple times. In England, I'm thinking I faced Michael Adams plenty of times, and it can be awkward. There will be moments in the game where you know your opponent's in their comfort zone, and that kind of past history gets in your mind a bit.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, just when you know someone's game so well, it's really hard to surprise them, right? I mean, you can overthink things as well. You think, I need to do something different, and then you can start playing more dubious things. I mean, talking about rivals, we might have to chat about ours a bit later on.
Talking about doing dubious things.
Dubious things, indeed. We've had many dubious battles.
We've had many dubious experiences together, haven't we? But no, I mean, I think you guys made great points, and I'm looking at their overall record, and first of all, how many times have these guys played each other as compared to the peers in their generation? I'm actually curious about that stat, because that's a lot of chess games. Magnus is up 24-19. But 34 draws really speaks to Wesley and how tough he is to beat, because Magnus doesn't like to draw people. I talked about Wesley being a guy who hates to lose. Magnus is a guy who loves to win, so he wants more dubs in the win category. And Wesley is only 5 games total behind in terms of decisive results. So we aren't just hyping this up for no reason. This is a matchup that is really an interesting one, especially when both players are on form.
And 19 wins against a player like Magnus, that's not a stat that many top players can boast about. But Wesley So, he has been in the losers bracket since day one, and then goes on to win every single match. We haven't seen that storyline in the Champions Chess Tour season so far. He finds himself in the grand final. David, how impressive is that?
It's extremely impressive. It's not coincidence that Wesley was called Magnus's nemesis for a long time, beating him in several matches, 2019 World Championship, Fischer Random World Championship, and yeah, just the path he's had in this tournament, it's been, top-notch, impressive stuff.
Yeah, he's been like a kind of weird car, Wesley, you know, sort of, he started up, you get him going, it's like, and now he's like, and he's like, you know, he's just getting quicker and quicker and better each game.
I want to make a really quick point, because what you just mentioned about the Fischer Random World Championship isn't even as part of that head-to-head, because it was Fischer Random. So that tells you that their overall score lifetime, Wesley is right there with them. And that was an event that, whether it was Fischer Random or not, had the highest stakes. A world championship title. And we all know that Magnus Carlsen really wanted to win that event, and he did it. So I can't be more hyped for this.
Magnus Carlsen yet to win a Fischer Random World Championship. Wesley So has done that, been there, done that, and can he do it again? He can look for inspiration at his countrymate, Hikaru Nakamura, the only player on the tour who has risen from the ashes in the Champions Chess Tour this season from the losers bracket and gone on to win the grand final. Can Wesley So pull that off against world number 1 Magnus Carlsen today? A lot on the line, including that golden ticket to the season playoff, and the winner will also get this very unique trophy. And so can the fans. There is a fan edition of this trophy, which gets you a VIP ticket to the 2023 CCT Finals in Toronto later this year in December. You can go make your bids on chesschamps.io and find yourself watching all the best action in speed chess in Toronto later. That's going to be a big event, Danny.
It's going to be huge, and we're gonna have tickets available. Obviously, as you said, there'll be VIP experiences and 8 players this time. For those who know that we did the CGC, the Global Championship in Toronto, we only had 4. So it's going to be 8 players, going to be epic, and hopefully we'll see you there.
There's still a long way to get there because the players today fight for the Aimchess Championship, and this is the regulations for our grand final. We will start with a best of 4 rapid. 15 minutes with a 3-second increment every move they make. 2.5 points wins the match. If it's a tie, we get the bidding Armageddon. If Magnus Carlsen wins the first set, he is the champion. If Wesley So wins the first set, we go into a grand final reset, which will be a best of 2 matches. 15 minutes again with a 3-second increment. If a tie, we get Armageddon. So Wesley So first needs to win 1 match, force a grand final reset, and then try and take it there. And there we have the players ready. Magnus with his chairs and Wesley with his trophy cabinet.
And will he add a trophy with a brain in it to the cabinet? We're going to find out. Sorry, David, you were about to jump in.
No, I was just going to say that it is a deep pawn opening. What is Magnus going to go for? Queen's Gambit. There we go. I was afraid for a moment it would be a London system. But, OK, Queen's Gambit, will it be accepted? Declined here by Wesley. He's got to do it the long way, as you mentioned there, Tanya. He's got to win this 4-game match and then a 2-game match. But first, he just needs to survive this game with black. And a draw, I think Wesley would be very happy with. It's the Catalan now.
And I want to build on the stat that Tanya said, because you made the point that Hikaru is the only one to have been in the loser's bracket to come back and win a grand final. Wesley has already done something that no one else in the tour has. He's officially, as of right now, the first player to lose in the first round and make it all the way, because Hikaru made it and won the grand final, but he didn't lose in the first round. So already Wesley having done something impressive, but can he keep his mindset and win the whole thing?
And Danny, it wasn't just the scoreline on that day 1. It was also his form felt so shaky. But something switched when he got back on day 2, and ever since, we've seen 2 different versions of Wesley this tournament.
Yeah, we've talked about that a lot as chess commentators. I know I've had many conversations with Robert Hess about it, where sometimes you see players start early and for whatever reason, because their back got put against the wall and maybe they got lucky and they didn't get sent home, it ends up really, really helping them be on form for the rest of the event, right? Your cage gets rattled a little bit and you wake up, and these guys are human. Sometimes you need something to kind of surprise you or help you smell the roses, and Wesley has gotten better with every match.
Yeah, you said it yourself, Danny. The first day was really un-Wesley-like. It was just like a different person, and definitely a wake-up call. And, OK, he has to wake up here, Wesley. His head is in his hands. He's looking down. He's trying to remember something. This last move by Magnus, as far as I'm aware, is quite rare. Wesley So here, he's using an antidote to the Catalan opening that Vladimir Kramnik first patented. And, yeah, he needs to speed up here. OK, he develops his knight. Very natural move. Thoughts on who this opening will favour? Magnus, known as an expert here.
Well, I think you mentioned it, David. I think this first game with Magnus on the white side is so important. And really, he has to avoid losing this one. I think if Wesley, doesn't get a result out of this one, it's going to be an uphill struggle with the black pieces. And I mean, looking at the position, it seems like a fairly typical position so far. White has the better centre, more pawns in the centre. He has this great Catalan bishop. This is one of the real strengths. And in theory as well, I mean, playing a move like that, Queen E1, you have to have looked at this before to play that so quickly, because it's not a completely obvious move. And, I guess still fairly even, but we'll find out soon.
I think you're making really good points, not just about how Magnus is playing, the moves he's playing, but the fact that he's playing them so fast. Look at how much time he has. And Magnus understands that chess is a game of psychology, and he understands that some games or some results are more equal than others. And I really believe that Magnus knows how important it is for him to strike early, because no one wants Wesley So to get momentum. No one wants that. I mean, Magnus Carlsen experienced that in 2019, and he knows how good So can be. So Magnus, I think, not just wants to win, but he's playing quickly for a reason. I think he's really trying to flex a little bit of that opening prep and maybe intimidate Wesley a little bit.
Maybe there's a positional threat here, David, already. I mean, if it was White to move, White would better lock down on that backwards pawn, yeah? Potentially.
Yeah, I was looking at the other side of the board, Simon, but you're right. If, for example, black plays a very slow, like a lazy move here, just h6, for example, then you could totally lock things down, and this pawn, like you say, it's fixed forever. It can never step forward, and you're going to target it very easily along the c-file. This is maybe one threat. I'm wondering about Magnus's queen move. Of course, it's protecting this knight as well. I'm wondering if the bishop will land on a5. This is often an annoying tactic, a very thematic idea in this type of Catalan. And yeah, the big question here is as well, can black break out? There are issues with this bishop on the edge of the board. The white knight might go and just trade it off a bit later on, at least harass it. And yeah, just to point out as well, the Catalan is all about this bishop, and this bishop looks pretty good right now. Black needs to strike out in the center or do something in order to neutralize the pressure. Already 3-4 minutes up on the clock, Magnus.
I think objectively Wesley's fine, though. I mean, the position is roughly level, and remember Wesley also played bishop h5, which got a quick response, queen e1, so they both kind of knew what they were doing. I feel like mostly, in my opinion, the critical things that are happening right now are not on the board. They might be in Wesley's head, and the fact that he's taking so much time is nerve-wracking if you're a Wesley fan.
100%. I mean, just talking about the position as well, I think it's well known that in this position from the black side, you've got to really try to play c5 at some moment. We talked about this pawn, and that must be a critical move here, maybe, and he has played it. And again, like you said, Danny, Magnus just putting on the pressure immediately, just saying, I've looked at this position, Wesley, I know what I'm doing. Do you know what you're doing? And immediately he attacks that queen with the idea that David mentioned. And this is certainly, he's showing great psychology here. I think he realizes that Wesley is not such a confident player, and he's questioning that already.
Really nice multi-purpose move there by Magnus, which makes the move with the queen, which makes the move that he just played possible, also defending the knight. Now, when your opponent is blitzing out moves right out of the opening, does that have this psychological effect on you where you start feeling that, have I not prepared enough, double guessing yourself? David, how does that affect you?
Yeah, it's actually good and bad when your opponent blitzes. Firstly, if they're blitzing, it means you've played moves that they expect, which is normally kind of translated as you're playing good moves. So if you play moves that the computer suggests, of course they know what to do, but it means that your moves are pretty decent too. The downside is you don't know when their preparation ends. Maybe they've gone deeper. This is now move 17. Maybe Magnus is prepared up to move 25, 30. Wesley at some point needs to throw him off, needs to try something new. So it can be scary, as you say, Tanya.
What are the chances of this being Magnus Carlsen's 2021 World Championship prep?
I actually think there's very decent chances of that. And for those who didn't follow that match, obviously him and Jan Nepomniachtchi got into a few Catalan battles, and you know, the preparation in the games maybe shifted away from it. But I think that happens a lot with world champions, right? You prepare a ton of things, and you don't get to use all of them, but they stay in your mind, and every once in a while they have a chance to creep back into your tournaments. And I think Magnus is flexing some sort of prep because he doesn't have to play this quickly. He's doing so to sort of send a message that I know this position better than you, and you better have come prepared.
Yeah, and it's not a strategy we're used to seeing from Magnus in rapid games. Usually he's trying weird and wonderful openings and trying to surprise the opponent as early as possible. This is like ultra main line, move 18 now, still more time than he started with, and he's going for all these ideas that we mentioned, knight f4, bishop a5. It's impressive stuff. Do you think having the rest day yesterday for Magnus is a good, bad thing? Losing momentum, but having extra time to prepare for this match?
I think it's definitely a good thing. I mean, he's been playing so much chess recently. He's been on a roll, but you do need to re-energize, obviously. It's really hard to say how hard work it is playing chess. And how it can really just drain your energy. I mean, you know, people think, oh, it's a game of chess. It's a bit of fun. You play it by the fireplace with your dad, and you know it's entertaining. But no, it can be pretty torturous in a really nice way. I mean, what I say to people, it's like, can you imagine the hardest exam you've done in your life? You know, you normally do an exam for 3 hours. You're doing this for 4 or 5 hours. You're doing it every day, and you can't let your brain slip at all. You have to. You have to be totally 100% in the zone. You can't think about anything else. You can't. It's really stressful. It's really intense, and that is a very unique thing for chess, I think, actually.
Well, and also because it's a game with high stakes, you're also dropping your adrenaline, right? It's exhausting. It is, right? And he had to do it not just once in terms of the exam, but twice yesterday against Iturrizaga and Nodirbek, of course. And so, yeah, this doesn't look like a great start. I mean, look, Magnus has more time than he started with. Wesley is about to be under half of his time remaining And objectively, the position is still okay. We shouldn't panic because remember, all Wesley needs to do is draw the first game with black, right? And keep himself in the match, not to lose first. But Magnus sending a message, and it's impressive right now.
Yeah, just looks disastrous from a psychological standpoint here for Wesley. We'll really have to see how tenacious he is and how focused he is, because I think most of us here, myself included, we would be panicking. I would just be frozen right now, as Wesley seems to be, just thinking, how is he going to survive this? How is he going to get Magnus for the first time, thinking on his own?
Incredible speed there by Magnus Carlsen. Double the amount of time that Wesley has and more time than what he started with right now. And that last move, it is going to create an imbalance in the position, as we will see minor pieces being traded off. Wesley's bishop can't really survive for too long, which means when there is this kind of a knight and bishop trade, that we can expect critical moments and decisions to arrive. With Wesley, 6.5 minutes on the clock, that can come back to bite him.
Yeah, I mean, he's already half the time down, and Magnus is up. Magnus has more time than he started with, and obviously being the body language expert,
of course,
as you said, you can see that Wesley now is folding into his hands. His body language is a little bit slumped at this moment in time, and he's just not very happy, is he? And also, to be honest, looking at the board, it looks like it's quite a dangerous position. We see he's played another move here, but he's going to lose the bishop pair. Magnus loves having the bishop pair. Just look at White's light squared bishop. That is such a fantastic piece. I mean, you might even be able to come in and attack the rook on b7. You know, at some point, you probably don't need to do that, but it looks actually a little bit dangerous for Black as well, you know, chess-wise.
Yeah, I agree, and I want to say that I think one of the hard parts about this move, Bishop D8, first of all, psychologically, this is the first moment Magnus has been thinking. So from Wesley's point of view, that makes you almost more nervous, because now it means, uh-oh, did I move away from his 2021 World Championship prep? Is he about to punish me? But I want to point out on the analysis board, David, that one of the problems with Bishop D8 is you're not actually threatening to take A5. I think that position would improve White's chances, right? Because those A6 and B5 pawns are such targets, whether we play Simon's Bishop B7 or not. The moment he played Bishop D8, I was like, this doesn't feel good. White can play moves, I mean, like Rook C1, right? Rook D1, you can build on the position. I think Rook C1 would be natural, right? And what is Black doing next? How are you untangling a queen on E8 and a rook on F8, right? It's like the old lady who swallowed a fly. We got one problem after another here on the back rank, and it's hard to relieve White's pressure.
On the plus side, we know he's the former world champion at Fischer Random Chess, Wesley here. And his pieces, he definitely look like they need to be
Magnus indeed played Rook C1.
What happened to the woman who swallowed the fly, by the way?
So what ends up happening at the end of that story,
I don't know that one.
She eats a horse. Things get weird on the farm.
Yeah.
Everyone's in therapy, and we're doing good.
And before things get too weird on the commentary.
Wow,
Danny, good call there on you with that rook moving in to target the C line. And once again, are we going to see these dynamics where Wesley perhaps overextending on the queen side, but could also leave him weakened without the light squared bishop on the board for Black?
Yeah, I mean, it's just quite tough to, you know, those queenside pawns might look quite nice from Black, but are they strong? Are they weak? I mean, here they come. Wesley's pushing them forwards, but they can just as easily be targets, because White has 2 pawn breaks that hits them. There's one. This is the obvious pawn break. Just trying to again, we say the nibble, the rabbit nibble. You know, just nibbling away at that structure. That's my rabbit there. And just trying to.
And here we were thinking Magnus is the goat, but he's clearly the rabbit.
He's the rabbit god goat. I don't know, like something like that.
Can nibble.
So,
goats nibble.
They can. Goats have got very nice beards as well, haven't they? So just I assume. But where are we going? But this is a standard move, and you know, you've got to hold on to that structure if you're Black here. As soon as it starts splitting up, it can become very dangerous. So I'm very fearful for Wesley's position here.
Yeah.
I mean, again, you pointed out the Fischer Random pieces. I'm not really liking this Fischer Random setup at the moment.
Yeah, I've got to ask a question here to everyone. Can you even see a logical move for Wesley? I don't see anything natural at all. And when you're under 5 minutes, you want kind of at least easy play, even if you're suffering objectively. I don't see anything. You're pinned, you're tied up, your pieces are passive.
I'm not kidding that, I mean, depending on what happens in this match, don't want to speak too soon, but I've already made a note of an interview question for Magnus should he win. Like, was this 2021 2021 World Championship prep because he has played so fast and so well. If we were to do an instant replay, this is a borderline perfect Catalan for White. Wesley, didn't really do anything wrong. You almost feel bad for him, right? But he ran up against a buzzsaw with a whole bunch of leftover prep from a couple World Championships ago. And he's down on the clock and much worse. White's bishop pair is phenomenal. The queen side is being undermined. This is tough stuff.
Yeah, and that shows how much Magnus wants this.
Yeah.
This tournament, I mean, he's already qualified for the tour finals, but he wants to win now. He wants to beat Wesley So. He's using his best openings. And normally Magnus keeps a lot secret. He saves them for big occasions, but this is one of those, clearly. And the pawns are separated, Simon.
Yeah, and Magnus still moving very quickly. I mean, he can't be in his preparation now, but he's 10 minutes up on the clock, and he's starting to use those pawns in the centre. Black's pass pawn, and this is something that often happens in the middle game in chess. You get a pass pawn, but is it strong or is it weak? And I think in this situation, it's just quite weak. It can be. So, yeah, I mean, it looks bad for Wesley, I have to say, at the moment. I think, David, you made a very good point. Magnus coming with his A game here. We saw he was playing 1A6 at the start of the tournament. Now he's probably using his World Championship preparation, which he had a team prepare. So it's going to be tough, but Wesley is still in the game.
Magnus Carlsen with the better pawn structure, Wesley So low on the clock, and two weaknesses on the board. We were talking about how much of this, how deep is the prep here, but very often when it's World Championship prep, even if it's not this exact position that Magnus has had, clearly his understanding of the Catalan and the familiarity that he has with the middle games is so high. And it feels like he's just outplaying Wesley slowly, but with every single move. And David, we've been talking about Magnus's form. And it just seems like this is the first tournament on this season that Magnus hasn't gone into a single Armageddon to get a win. Is this some of the best chess that we've seen from him?
Yeah, it feels like Magnus just this last couple of months has really perked up. I think it was, we can trace it back pretty much to Norway chess, where Magnus in the classical portion didn't win a single game. But in the Armageddons, he was winning most of them, so still decent shape Rapid. But ever since that Blitz Rapid tournaments, he's been racking up the victories. And yeah, this is just a masterclass so far. I think maybe if we just jump in and show a couple of things to viewers at home. We talk about the Catalan opening a lot. We talked about the Catalan bishop earlier with its nice range. It's blocked temporarily, but this is a dream. And this is textbook stuff. You want the pawn center, you want the bishop pair, you want everything. And of course, if you have weaknesses to target, we've been talking about this pawn, then later on, this is just a very easy plan for White. I agree with you, Tanya. Magnus in great form right now, and just natural moves. You can bring your rook to the center. So many tempting options. He's going to keep blitzing.
I think what you said, Tanya, is a really important point, because I think sometimes fans confuse deep prep with deep understanding. The preparation from these World Championship matches, or any high-level preparation by these guys, does go to a certain move. And sometimes there are concrete traps that your opponent might fall into. But a lot of it is to reach a goal. And then they spend a lot of time playing those positions. They get training games in those pawn structures and with the middle game ideas. So they tend to then know that position much better than their opponent. So at this point, it may not be relevant whether Magnus has specific moves from here on out. The time is indicative. At one point, the time was indicative of him having all the moves, right? He had more time than he started with. He was borderline pre-moving, right? But now the time is indicative that he understands the position better, that he knows he has an advantage, and he knows what the ideas are, right? And a lot of times, that's a really good lesson for people in order to develop into chess mastery. You can't memorize all moves in chess, but you can memorize the formations, the ideas, the types of tactics that occur in common pawn structures, etc. So Magnus is just all over this game, a short way of saying it.
And I think one of those moments which shows his understanding in this position, Simon, was when he moved that queen from c1 to e1. Because it set up so many ideas in the position for White. The ability for the knight to retreat and then eventually go on to trade Black's bishop. The ability for White's bishop to move forward and put the Black queen in an uncomfortable spot. And I think queen e1 was quite the star move out of the opening.
100%. And I think that was definitely in preparation. You know, he played this move, but he also, as Danny has been saying, had a plan in mind when he played this. And it's probably a plan that he's looked at with his seconds. I'm sure this is some deep preparation, and he knows what kind of structure to move into. I mean, this is so important, I think, for many people maybe watching this who love chess. It's like, okay, you play the opening, but you've really got to know what you're trying to do in the middle game. You know, not just memorizing the moves, but what kind of what kind of pawn structure do you want? Where should your pieces go? What kind of pawn structure are you trying to stop your opponent getting? And it's amazing that not many actually lower rated players think in this way, and that's an immediate way to improve your standard, and you can see that from this. And saying all that, Wesley is in the game. He's not material down. He's kind of solid. I say kind of solid because I can see there's something happening in the centre at some point, but at the moment he's okay. And Magnus now having his first think, which again, anything that can give Wesley a bit of confidence is good for Wesley at this moment in time. And he just puts his rook one square forwards there, which doesn't look that challenging, David, a move like that for Wesley.
Oh, I agree. It doesn't look like the most kind of ambitious move here by Magnus, but the idea is to swing the other white rook across. White's rook next to the king there on f1, not doing too much. And actually, Magnus decided maybe it wasn't kind of the best square to just centralize it there. He's keeping his options open. And okay, Wesley used the time that Magnus was thinking there to play knight to a4. Pressure on White's bishop. We've talked about how that black pawn on c4 is isolated, weak. First step was to blockade it. How to get it now? That's the big question for Magnus. What's the next step?
Yeah, and David, can you also break down what are the strategic decisive factors in this position that the players can try to fight for? We've been talking about Magnus having this great opening, understanding he's done everything right. But for Black as well, there are things that Wesley's got, trumps that he's got. So what do you think is going to be the development and the factors that are going to come into play in the next few moves?
Yeah, to me, Tanya, at the moment, it looks like it's all about this pawn. If Wesley can keep it alive, then later on it is actually a passed pawn. If this blockade on c3 is broken, then the pawn might just march down to victory. But if Magnus can corral this pawn somehow, and it does look weak on a dark square, then at least he has the safety net of going a pawn up. And I would start potentially with just the move rook to c1, maybe rook to b1 if you want an open file. The whole idea is, yes, you might part with a bishop pair, but now your pawn might just drop on c4. Another natural move to me, at least on first sight, would be to bring the knight forward, going for this pawn. But as you mentioned there, strategically, Wesley, he just has to keep this one alive. And we've been talking about those Fischer random pieces on the back rank. The queen actually, for the first time in the game, has a natural way out off the back rank. And this rook, if the queen moves, will centralize. And there we go. Magnus does show the point behind his last move, lifting the rook up last turn to swing his rook across with rook to b1 there. And okay, open file, preventing the black queen from using that b5 post. Yeah, it feels like Magnus, he wants to develop, but he's also trying to prevent Wesley's ideas in the meantime. I like this multi-purpose move, rook b1.
I think one of the things you have to look to do in a position like this when you're worse, like Wesley, is we keep focused on the pawn, right? We call it active defense, right? Or you make a defensive sacrifice. I think Wesley's ideal scenario is that somehow he loses that c-pawn, but he gets compensation. And the reason I'm focused on that is the c4 pawn is under fire, right, by the white knight. And that prevents, by the black knight. That prevents white from taking twice on c4. You lose the pawn. And if there's some world where this black queen can get to a4 and you can start to get some counterplay, right? I was even wondering if there's an idea that you go rook b8, and you lose the c-pawn, but in exchange, you get the b-file, right? Not right now, but I'm pointing out that, especially when you're about to be under 2 minutes, and you don't want to be just grinded down in a worse position, that you have to look for active chances, right? You have to look for an opportunity to make it tricky. And so sometimes you look to give up your biggest weakness on the board, and if your opponent takes it prematurely, you end up getting some form of counterplay or compensation they didn't see coming. Now, unfortunately, Magnus has been called the mini Karpov, right? Karpov was famous, again, for never taking your weaknesses until you were begging him to, right? Because he just really, the boa constrictor we talked about, right? So I don't think Magnus is going to fall for that, but I still think that the practical idea of Wesley looking to get some chances on the b file against that e4 pawn, maybe queen a4, these are the moves we have to look for. And okay.
Commentator's curse. Well, I guess he's going to win a pawn this way because the pawn on a6. But I was thinking this. It does look a bit strange, doesn't it, to grab this one?
Maybe it works though, because
maybe it does work. Maybe it just wins a pawn.
I think I guess we have to go back to the analysis. If you take twice and play knight takes e4, there's also knight e5 right away, which is part of the problem. Is you just instantly, now that I'm seeing it, you attack the queen and the knight. But, okay, let's stay with this, because Magnus won the pawn, and maybe Black plays...
We're seeing this happen.
Oh, wait, it's happening.
He takes it. And if White does jump with the knight, Black will be forced to bring up the queen to d5, offer a trade, defend the knight. Will Magnus get greedy with the a-pawn, pick that up immediately, or jump in with the knight? What would be your choice here, David?
I would at first calculate this knight jump just because the potential rewards, the potential profit is you might win a piece or you might immediately force black into an awkward pin. But if this doesn't work out, your move there, Tanya, defending everything here, queen d5, then I might switch to just grabbing the pawn, being greedy, at least putting something in the bank for later. I think that's how players calculate at the top level. In this position, white has two very tempting moves. Queen takes pawn, you're a safe pawn up, the game goes on. Or there's something even more direct, even more ambitious and forcing, and that's where the players start their calculations. So I think Magnus is looking at knight e5. If he finds nothing else, then he'll take the pawn and the game will go on.
It's funny, though, because even though Magnus went for this, and we'll assume that it'll work because he's the greatest chess player of all time, I do think Wesley is breathing a little bit of a sigh of relief here because we now have a new dynamic on the board, which is the opposite colored bishops, right? And if you can get a blockade, you can hold positions where you're down sometimes even 2 pawns with an obstacle bishop endgame. So obviously that A pawn is going to be a problem. And when you have a bishop on a long diagonal with an A pawn running, it's not your favorite position. At the same time, I don't think it's over yet for Wesley. And what a hold this would be. If Magnus doesn't win this game, that's a huge win for Wesley.
It's not over yet, but again, it comes down to that 17th piece as well, right?
Yeah.
Wesley with just a minute and a half on the clock. Simon, how much of a challenge is it not just having a minute and a half in this complicated position, but playing Magnus with that amount of time in this position?
Well, it's hard enough just having a minute and a half at any stage in your life, especially as you get older like me. But it's tricky, but... I mean, there are, I don't know, I was just thinking, like, stats-wise, what are the chances that Wesley's going to hold this? I think it's a 2-result game. I don't think he can win. So will he hold this or will he lose? And I'm thinking probably better chances he's going to draw this. That's what I would go for because of the opposite coloured bishops. And, OK, we're going to see a forced variation here. Actually, this is quite interesting because now... Magnus not grabbing that pawn, not trying to exchange queens, but keeping pieces on the board and keeping more pressure. But it's, I don't know, it seems like Wesley is still okay, just about. It hasn't got much worse for him, which is good because pieces are coming off the board. But he has to move quickly, which is also not good.
Well,
yeah.
When you're... OK, Magnus has been great. Magnus clearly brought some prep to the table. We'll find out if it was from the World Championship. But when you're a player like Wesley, you've been here before. You've run up against great prep, and you've been down on the clock before. So you have to keep your wits about you. And if all you can do is hold, but you manage to do so, you've put this match on a great trajectory. Because holding with black already is a good result. Holding with black when you were maybe much worse and up against World Championship prep, if that's the case, would be, again, just a psychologically massive win for Wesley. Now there's rook a8. Is there queen takes d4? I don't know. But even if black loses the e6 pawn, if you manage to get the a pawn, you have really great drawing chances in an obstacle bishop endgame. And so Wesley is looking up.
G6.
We have a move on the live board that doesn't look like it's good.
It looked like your move, Danny, so natural. Bring the rook to a8, just kick the queen away, win the pawn behind it. But he takes a timeout, Wesley. G6.
Yeah, right.
That is slow. It smells of something dodgy here. It feels like you give white an extra move, and the evaluation bar confirms this. What is the punishment?
I think that's just nerves. I mean, it also weakens the black king. I know the black king gets an escape square, but it's so slow in a position like this.
Tanya, we see there the engine suggestions.
Yeah, I was just thinking the rook can jump into the game, and this could be big trouble. When you push pawns, you weaken your own king. And with the 7th rank open, David, this could end badly very soon for Wesley.
Very quickly, we see the engine gives this almost +6 for white, and you're hitting a bishop. I think it's just the fact that black isn't ready to deal with the pressure. For example, here, I'm just going to take off this knight just to get rid of any potential tricks. And I'm already seeing knight jumps maybe into d7. I'm seeing, whoa. Is this queen? Oh, it's nearly trapped. I was going to say, I think I trapped it, but the black queen can run out to a8.
But then e6 is just game over.
Almost
completely game over.
Why did he play g6? Let's go back. I mean, I was literally just talking about rook a8 and the drawing chances increase, and I'm like mind blown here. Like, what did he?
Is that a panic move, Danny?
I mean,
he must have seen a ghost. Yeah, rook a8 was phenomenal. I mean, let's put it on the board instead of g6. David, the engines had it. Like, the most logical thing to do was to put the rook on a8 and to win the a2 pawn. What did he see? Where is the ghost that he saw here? Like, was it queen b7?
Maybe it's queen c6, possibly. I mean...
Queen b7 hits the bishop, so maybe he was...
But even if you just move it somewhere...
Yeah, well, there's queen f7 check, so I get a little nervous, but
Maybe this is what he was scared of, some checks here. But either way, it feels like he needed to just evict this queen. It's so powerful, as we were saying, in this variation, in all variations, this pawn is just going to drop off. And now, just to show, the computer thinks that white is winning after 3 different moves. We've seen this one, rook b7, super powerful, conquering the 7th rank, 7th heaven there for the rook. Also, the computer thinks simply pushing the pawn is strong. And also a knight jump, which is quite tempting, hitting this loose piece.
I mean, rook b7 seems so natural. And there was
Yeah.
actually a checkmate in that last line.
Simon.
You showed, David, which was quite nice, just to show some dangers in this position. So you attack the bishop. If the bishop moves, you come to d7. And I think the queen only has 1 square. And maybe it's not checkmate, but it's very close. You take on e6. And then after the king moves, well, you have many ways to win a lot of material. I forgot the f pawn was there. I was thinking knight takes g6.
Knight f7 is good enough, though.
Yeah, knight f7 just wins immediately, and you're picking up everything. There's no counterplay for black as well. Black needs a couple of moves to gain any kind of counterplay in this position. So if rook b7 is played, I just don't see how Wesley has any chance of surviving. And Magnus doing the right thing here. He's played very quickly, but he smells that there's something here. He realizes that g6 is a very nervous move, and he's now spending that time. And this is what you should do in chess. You should make sure in critical moments you tank some time. That's what your time's for. And you only get maybe, let's say, 3 or 4 critical moments in one game of chess. And he's doing precisely the right thing here, just finding the way to proceed. I'd be amazed if he doesn't play rook b7. I mean, it is so normal to play such a move here. Attack, rook to the 7th rank.
But the good news for Magnus is it's not the only move that keeps a big advantage in the position. Whatever he does, he needs to take a decision quickly. He's under 2 minutes now, so the clock advantage is dwindling away there. Magnus having a big think. Will he find the critical move that gives him a big advantage? Or the other moves that we see on our screen that still keep majority of it? And he goes for one that doesn't.
He plays rook b5. Oh, my gosh.
Is he back in, Wesley So? Magnus has calculated a
What did
long
Magnus
variation.
calculate now?
Wow.
Is there a flaw to this, though? Suddenly black is threatening a nasty checkmate in 2. Black's queen is attacking the f2 pawn.
Magnus is leaning in.
Did he mess this up?
Maybe surprised by something at the end of this line. Leaning in now suggests that he doesn't have any more follow-ups, right? He doesn't have another move here, and
Shocking.
Black is threatening to take f2.
I mean, that is amazing, actually. I mean, like, this was not a very long combination, and he's now tanking time. Maybe he just didn't consider this move pawn takes. Maybe he just thought pawn takes doesn't work, and Wesley So now has many perpetual check ideas with his queen, and his queen and rook are very active. You can't take the bishop in order to win. This is quite remarkable, and if Wesley holds this game, wow, you're going to have to say that he's going to be favourite, because it's a complete Houdini act to save this one. And this check, the king just moves.
And Magnus reacts there. He knows that he's messed up a big advantage. David, did he miss this resource of black just stepping up with the king?
Yeah, I'm not sure what he's missed, Tanya, but it's something big, because this position looks totally healthy for black. Magnus now, he needs to pull the break. There we go. It's forcing the queens off the board. But I think what he might have missed as well is that black can block this check with his bishop. And suddenly black's pieces are active. And yeah, Magnus... It's so strange. He sensed the moment. He knew there was something direct, but he tried to force it in the wrong way. And we rarely see him blunder like this. Now he's just got to go into reverse gear, get the queens off, and bail out with a draw.
We really can't understate how huge this is if Wesley So holds this game.
Yeah.
Not only drawing with black, but again, he was under immense pressure, preparation, down almost 9 minutes on the clock at one point, has been living under the 2-minute marker here for quite a while. So again, it's not over yet, but if Wesley So holds this game, we say grab your popcorn yesterday, buckle up everyone, welcome to the weekend, because it might be starting with a bang here.
Well, it's like what Wesley said. Wesley, in the interview, said yesterday, well, look, Magnus is a brilliant player, one of the best players ever, but he's human. He is human, and he makes mistakes. He's not a robot. He's not a computer. And Wesley now activating his rook, aiming at that pawn. And if he can win that pawn, and I think he might do, even if you get 3 pawns versus 2 on the king side, an extra pawn for white, it should be a draw with accurate play. But saying that, you are playing the best endgame player of all time. So a bit of work to do still in this position to hello.
Now just seconds on the
what was
clock,
that?
and Wesley
Oh, yeah,
down
no,
to 3 seconds. He walks into a pin.
What happened there?
And the rook can defend it, but the king-pawn ending is lost. And that is it. Wesley resigns. After saving a difficult position, Magnus Carlsen takes the lead in their grand final first set. What a comeback. What a game. Twists and turns, and Wesley there reacting to that miss. He knew he had the draw in his hands.
Wow.
What in the world did we just watch? What a wild turn of events. Again, you're heartbroken for Wesley because after fighting so hard, and he'd earned the draw, he ends up giving it to Magnus, who he can't believe it either. He's shaking his head in disbelief.
Unbelievable. I mean, I think Wesley just realised that he only had 1 second left.
Yeah.
And he had to make a move. It was as simple as that. It was that piece that Tanya keeps pointing out, the clock. And I think that was just the one thing. And he just had to make a move, and he just forgot about the clock. That was the only explanation for playing that losing move there.
And we saw there Magnus Carlsen also in disbelief at what just happened there in the end. What a roller coaster game there. David, what happened?
Yeah, so many twists and turns in the space of just the last few moves. We saw Magnus build up a winning advantage with some phenomenal opening preparation. Wesley fighting to stay in the game, and he was gifted an opportunity. This position, once the queens came off, should objectively lead to a draw. Black's best move, maybe, is to just move this bishop. Wesley ran out of time here before he could do that. He could, for example, put the bishop on f6. There's pressure against the a2 pawn. Yes, you might have to defend a sad endgame, a pawn down, but you have great chances. Black's bishop, a very strong piece with pawns on both sides of the board. Instead, Wesley panicked here with 1 second left, and he played the horrible blunder, king to f7. Was it a mouse slip? Did he intend to go to f6, maybe a better square? But this was elementary. Magnus just lines up here, the rook and the bishop and the king all on the 7th rank now. This is a simple pin and a simple win.
David, I want to stay in your analysis here. We got permission here before we go to commercial. If you back up to the position of rook b7, I've been sitting here analyzing it and trying to figure it out. I want to show brilliance by Wesley So real quick. If you go back to before rook b7 in that critical moment, I want to show why Magnus didn't play rook b7. Because at the end of the line, I think we were suffering thinking this was easier than it was. But at rook b7, the line was going to be queen takes d4. And after queen takes e6 check. The point is that after the king moves, you're threatening f2. We were making it sound like it was easy. So bishop takes e4, but on f takes e4, it's actually not so simple here. And I think Magnus was just stuck in this position because look, it gets worse. After knight f7 check, king g7, the only move that wins here for white is queen e5 check, taking the queens off the board. If you take the bishop, black has a draw with queen d1 and queen f3. And again, I think we were sitting here looking at rook b7 thinking it was easier than it was, but actually Wesley resourcefully defended this game brilliantly, and then Magnus couldn't see the end of this line because if we show, again, how hard was queen e5? Anyway, so I just want to show that we just saw a masterclass game by two of the best you're ever going to see do it. Yes. And Magnus stole one. Yeah.
Magnus Carlsen was dominating the game for the most part of it. Wesley, with his resourcefulness, managed to equalize, but in the end, the blunder cost him the game, and Magnus Carlsen takes the lead. Wesley has to strike back. We will be back with more grand final action in just a few.
Basically, it's a tool for improving your chess game. It gives you tailored lessons for different phases of the game, and it seems like a very useful tool.
So again, better than players around your rating.
That's good. It looks like you get a really nice overview over your games and what you need to focus on and what you are good enough at.
To have all my weaknesses black on white on paper is devastating and interesting and fun at the same time.
The middle games are really rough, and Aimchess said it to me again. So.
And that is definitely the most popular move there.
Today I actually learned a few tricks in the opening that I love to play, so I got some tips from Simon.
If you're a beginner It will pick out kind of the basic things you need to improve on. And also advanced players is very detailed at getting straight in, working out if your openings work, if your tactics, and giving you some personalised lessons. So it's pretty broad, pretty much everyone. And Aimchess was great at finding out that nearly everyone we had, their endings were actually very bad. So they need to work on that area of the game.
To be honest, I think Aimchess can help everyone. It's helped me, especially improve in the opening, realise my strengths and weaknesses there, and in the end game, where actually I thought I was very good, but it pointed out areas that I could work on.
If you want to improve on anything from start and opening to end games, any level can do Aimchess, I suppose.
You can get stronger, faster with Aimchess analytics and lessons there. And you get your first month free with the code CCT at go.chess.com/Aimchess. What a round one we had, Ketty, in Division 1. What did you make of that?
Tanya, I thought that the worst was pass for Wesley So, and then he lost at that second.
Oh.
It was a bit painful to see how he lost in the end, and he was surviving so long up to game that Magnus put up. It was amazing.
It was amazing, and it was an amazing battle. And Ketty, with the players fighting for that qualifying spot at the end of the season, there are players fighting for a lot in Division 2 as well.
That's right, Tanya, and I'm so happy that those are two very young chess players. Denis Lazovic, only 17 years old, Sam Sevian, 22 years old. Tanya, we were talking about this match yesterday. Denis Lazovic won in the Armageddon. We have Sam down in the losers bracket, but Sam won the losers bracket and went all the way up, and he's in the final. And today, their first game was very interesting. Then Lazovic had a slightly better position in the end, but it was not enough for him to convert, and now they are playing the second game.
Aimchess Rapid has us on the edge of our seats. And for these two youngsters, Dan Laz, he's just 17 years old. He would be the youngest ever participant in Division 1 of a CCT event if he wins today against Sam Sevian. But it would also mean so much for Sam IAM with $10,000 on the line, big tour points, and that big ticket into Division 1 of the next event. Kerry will be keeping us updated with all the action and the exciting battle. And we also had a lot of fun, and it was a very exciting battle. We will be showing you the full video later of what happened when Danny and Simon took to the streets of Oslo for a chess challenge. Here's a little sneak peek for what's coming up.
Simon has a distinct advantage because his openings are so bad, they tend to get more blunders.
Look at this bat, look at this slow positional chess going on over it. Three.
Okay, I'm coming for you. There we go. That's the subtlety you didn't see at the end of the line. I'm in the lead. Simon, sack your queen. Sack your queen. Come on. I'm freaking out here. Where's the win, bro?
Take your time, Danny. There you go. There's another one. Pressure's on.
I'm playing against two enemies here, Simon Williams and the clock.
Danny, Simon, that was a lot of fun to watch. And did you guys have fun playing against Oslo?
We did. We had a ton of fun playing against the entire city of Oslo who was there. I'm still reeling a little bit from that match. You're talking about two of the most accurate players of all time, and I think it speaks more to the complexity of that position. I think sometimes it's easy for us in the moment to get caught up in the eval bars yelling at us. In hindsight, there was a lot to that game to figure out, and it led to some blunders. But Wesley So's final blunder, just shocking. So.
And he starts with the white pieces. He has to win at least one game to start with. I have your predictions in my hand here. Are you guys still sticking with them or regretting them?
Can I have my piece of paper back, please, Tanya?
No, you can't, David. We will be revealing the predictions by our experts later today. But for now, it's all on Wesley So. He starts with the English Simon once again.
Best opening out there, and this is very traditional English, and we saw this, what I can remember about this position in the World Championships in, I think it was 86 in Seville. Kasparov-Karpov, they played this E5 reverse Sicilian many times, but this is now one of the more main lines. And this knight retreat has become quite a trendy move. I think Gryzczuk first played it. And it's meant to be quite a solid way for black to meet the English opening. And I have to say, one of the things that put me off playing the English as white was this exact line, because I don't like giving my opponent more space when I got the white pieces. So that's the advantage of this setup from the black side. Black has that pawn in the centre, and it really is just a reverse Sicilian. And it's a good dragon for white, but a good dragon may still be a bad dragon in some cases.
No such thing as a good dragon.
Oh, yeah, maybe a bit of an oxymoron there. This position, but it's pretty standard, right, David? I mean, I'm sure you've played this kind of position as well yourself.
Yeah, plenty of times, and it goes back to something we've been talking about throughout the week. It's often players they know where they're comfortable in terms of pawn structure. And Magnus, as you say there, Simon, is losing a bit of time with black. You also start with black, so you start tempi down, but despite the fact it's kind of transposing into a Sicilian type of structure, Magnus is still happy. He doesn't mind losing 2 or 3 moves tempi, as long as he gets a position that he's very comfortable in. And we see Wesley So already thinking. Magnus maybe just trying to dodge some preparation here as well, getting Wesley thinking at this early stage. I must admit, I'm sceptical. I like white's chances here. It just feels like you're leading in development, but there must be something.
I was going to say, I made the there's no such thing as a good dragon joke as someone who's lost too many games on the black side of a Sicilian dragon to talk about. But this position is good for white. I mean, this position is super solid, because let's remember that the thing that makes the dragon bad is the Yugoslav attack, right? It's the very dangerous, well-prepared pawn structure that blows black off the board. This position is actually a very fun one to play. You've got the bishop, kind of like the Catalan bishop, David. You've got a rook coming to c1. We'll just draw some arrows, use our coloring board here, because I think, the bishop develops. You have the other bishop. You have the rook on c1. These positions are so easy and fun to play for white. So I'm also skeptical. I like it as a potential rebound game for Wesley, which he desperately needs. So I think he's off to a good start.
Off to a good start, you say that, but he's just burnt about 2 minutes on the clock. Once again, we see Magnus taking the lead on the clock there after this last move by Magnus. Wesley taking a big think here. This last little pawn move, David, is this something that's new, unfamiliar territory? What's going on?
Yeah, I must admit that to me, in this position, if we just backtrack a couple of moves, I've always played this move knight back to b6. It just feels like you're getting out the way. Also, a very popular move has been developed recently, bringing the bishop out. And knight to f6, as Simon said, is trendy. And here, I'm just familiar with bringing the bishop out. I think Magnus maybe, again, he's just trying to get Wesley out of preparation. h6, it's a waiting move. It's a useful move. If, for example, white pushes a pawn forward, it takes away this square from white's bishop. But yeah, it feels like Magnus just playing mind games here. And we should mention to the viewers, okay, a couple of moves have been played, that the dragon is signified by this bishop coming out to g2. And just to show the idea, we call it a reverse Sicilian, because essentially, let's backtrack the whole way very quickly here. Essentially, the dragon, or a very similar, let's go for the accelerated dragon here, a very similar position would be this one, branching from the Sicilian, where here, after bishop to g7, white could, for example, bring the knight back, and we would see something very similar to the game, just with reverse colors. So white is essentially upper tempo, and one move in chess, very important. So it's always signified by this bishop on the long diagonal and this pawn structure.
And how tricky is that, Danny, to face these reverse openings? Because you're familiar with the main line, but with that one move difference, one move advantage, how does that change the dynamics?
It can change it a lot. And it can also, well, there's two things, right? Sometimes it can literally change the concrete nature of the position. And so you do have to double check your lines. You have to calculate things to make sure you're not walking into a blunder. But the other thing it can do is change how people feel about it, which is what we're seeing. It psychologically affects them to the point where they're using maybe 3 unnecessary minutes, right? Wesley down on the clock again. So I want to again, just call out that while I do like Wesley's position, and I think he has a good chance to rebound and maybe level this thing, at least as far as the first few moves, I still you have to applaud Magnus Carlsen. And reminds me of what Fabiano Caruana said about him, which is, again, people underestimate how well you have to know openings to look like you're avoiding openings. And so Magnus has a very playable position for black, playing moves that you highlighted yourself, David, even in a trendy line with knight f6 that you've never seen. h6, the bishop goes to d6 instead of e7. This is not a typical structure for how black plays these reverse dragons, yet he's in a playable position. And guess what? He made his opponent burn 3.5 minutes on the clock. So this is the kind of stuff he does in rapid chess, and it often pays off.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point of making things look easy. I mean, you get this not just in chess, but the best footballers, the best musicians, the best anything. They make something look really simple, sound simple, but in actual fact, that's a skill of someone who's an expert, making something incredibly hard seem easy, and that's what Magnus does do by playing actually quite strange moves. I mean, I think if this is also, I think, something that's if this was played, these moves from Black like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you'd probably guess that the player of Black was quite a weak player, because it looks quite clumsy. You know, as David said, Black's knight has gone to a square it doesn't normally go to. The pawn move, is it a waste of time? The bishop is in front of the queen. What's it doing there? They're quite weird moves. There goes another pawn move, and it's kind of, yeah. This is a modern, very modern way of facing White's position here. And I do like White as well. I mean, White must have a small advantage here, no more than a small advantage, but he's got a better pawn structure. Like you get in the Sicilian, he's developed his pieces to slightly better squares, and there's generally going to be pressure on the queen side here with that rook move against Black's queen side.
Yeah, and it does kind of reflect how Magnus works on chess. I've been lucky enough to discuss some chess stuff with him, and I know that nowadays he's much more open with kind of the younger generation. He helps them as well, discusses chess with them. And I remember hearing him at a lecture once. He was comparing the King's Indian to a line of the French defense, and he was like, okay, they're exactly the same, the King's Indian and the French. If the center is blocked, it's just like a mirror image. And he's always thinking, okay, I can play this one tempo down. And that's why sometimes he starts the game with 1-8, 1-A3, or these strange moves, and he's literally just comparing these openings, and because he knows all of them, he can recognize patterns and kind of draw on that and take his opponents kind of into areas and structures that he knows better. And yeah, again, the clock time sits potentially relevant for later on. This position, I still prefer White, just because you're up on kind of a well-known opening, just one tempo here, but watch out for Magnus understanding the middle game and knowing what to do in advance, playing extremely quickly in the next few turns.
Getting a glimpse of the genius of Magnus Carlsen here and his opening approach and strategy. And now, once again, Wesley down on the clock. Also, how difficult is it for Wesley from what just happened in game one? A tough opening, but he comes out of it and he has his moment. And then a one-move blunder. How does that affect him?
Honestly, I'm still affected. Can we talk about how I'm emotionally affected by that right now? I mean, I feel like chat's affected. We all got a little bit robbed after an amazing defensive performance by Wesley So, that tenacious D, and then a blunder. And I saw Greg Shahadi in chat. I saw everyone just like going nuts, like, wow. So anyway, we all need to let it go and focus on the moment, including Wesley So, Tanya. You're right, because it's so hard when a game ends that way. You almost would rather have just gotten your bleep kicked in, right? You would rather that happen.
Thanks
than,
for that bleep, Danny.
I don't know. I meant your teeth. Sometimes I bleep out my teeth. The point is, this is really tough, and Wesley really has to just focus on the moment, one game at a time. The guys who live in the top 10 in the world have short-term memory loss by design. They're all there because they have the ability to focus in the moment. I believe Wesley can do it, but he has to speed up a little bit.
He has to speed up a little bit, and a goldfish memory right now is what Wesley needs. David, what do you think about this last move by Wesley with the knight jumping forward?
Yeah, Tanya, I think you've called it back to the chess at the perfect moment, because there's a positional threat on the board. And again, we can draw on that pool of knowledge we have from other openings here, the Sicilian. And in the Sicilian with reverse colors, we talk about an exchange sacrifice, and it's a very thematic one. Here, rook takes knight. You're giving up material. You're giving up a rook 5 for the knight, 3 points there, but you're shattering Black's pawn structure. And let's say Black plays a silly move, puts the king on h8. I think Wesley would just go for this without too much thought. You break the Black structure, look at how weak these will be long term, and also there might be another pawn up for grabs in the center. And if you can get away with this, then look at the ruins of Black's position here. It might not be so simple, but these pawns are weak at least. This pawn is weak long term. White's knight is going to get a nice square, and I think if this works tactically, then this is something that Magnus is really concerned about right now. A big potential sacrifice. And I think strategically, that would give White a beautiful position. Something to watch out for.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's another threat as well, David, I think. And we mentioned that you must know your plans in the middle game. And again, this is a perfect example. David straight away knowing that this exchange sacrifice is so important. But the other plan that you must know in the Sicilian is moving that knight to c5. And you get this the other way around when you're playing Sicilian. But that is a key key square. And this maneuver of the knight, if you didn't know about it beforehand, you might not recognise it. But when the white knight gets there, it causes so many problems to black's queen side and just generally to black's position. And I would say that's equally as scary, that move. I mean, very simple move, just improving the knight, pressurising black's queen side. And if I was black here, I'd be very concerned because there's a lot of positional threats brewing.
I think you're making a really great point. And the more we're looking at now the clocks get even, the more you're starting to see what we were talking about earlier come to fruition, right? We applauded Magnus's practical approach. We applauded the fact that he's going to get a playable position as black by avoiding the main lines. But we also said the whole time that we liked white's position, right? That we liked the dragon structure reverse, because the thing that kills the dragon is the Yugoslav attack, checkmate, pawn storm. If you don't know it, just Google Yugoslav attack, pawn storm. But the point is, right now, this is not a Yugoslav attack, which means white's king is not coming under fire. White holds all the cards on the queen side, whether it's the exchange sack or knight c5. I think Wesley's in a really great spot to rebound here. And again, that would be the drama we want. So we'll see if it's the drama we get.
Wow. Okay, well, sorry, David.
I was just going to say, queen d7, maybe your idea on the board, Simon.
Yeah, I mean, at least that stops the exchange sacrifice. I guess it does, because you look after your pawns, but it certainly invites the white knight into that square. I mean, you don't have to move the white knight in. You can do other moves here, but it's a very tempting move to play.
And that exchange sacrifice also might still be on the cards. Two very tempting options here for Wesley So. And the one he chooses, will that make his ambition clear in this position, David?
Yeah, if Wesley So can get away with sacrificing his rook on this square, he will love that. But the problem is maybe that the queen can take, and yes, your knight can jump out of the way with a double attack. But once the queen moves, do you have enough? You have sacrificed a rook for just a knight and pawn, and at least this time black's pawns are still alive. I'm struggling to see a knockout blow here. It does feel a bit shaky, black's queen lacking squares, but maybe it's clinging on. And the other idea, Simon, you mentioned in this position, knight to c5. I think that's the more tempting of the two right now, but it's all about whether maybe in this position black has something. I don't see it right now. Do you push this pawn? Do you maybe try and trade off this beautiful dragon bishop? Either way, Wesley's calculating this right now.
I think pushing the pawn might be the key, because you can't take f6. Oh, okay. I thought you can't take f6 because black will take f3 with tempo. Right. Okay. So that was right. But I guess you can just take e4.
Yeah.
No.
Maybe you just move the knight in this position. For example, you come back and something like this. It looks like white's bishops just have fantastic range. Instead, Magnus has gone for something else. He didn't go for this. Instead, trying to trade off one of those beautiful bishops on g2. And sacrifices here. He's backing this up with tactics. Is this pawn hanging? This is the big mystery right now.
We've got to show that, the dangers that exist if white does get greedy in this position.
Yeah, I'm trying to work out those dangers.
I was going to say, I'm sitting here surprised to see bishop h3, because I can't make sense of this position, but it looks like knight e5 in the end. There's a capture on g2 and a check on d5. That's it, right? Okay, so rook e5, we'll just show it. Trade, bishop g2, and then queen d5. Okay, so that's the tactic.
Double attack at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, and taking with the bishop, I guess the fact that these pieces are hanging in the air, there might be some tactic here. Maybe it's just b6, kicking away this rook, and the same tactic as Danny showed.
I mean, I was going to say this is why he's the world champion. He's not, but he kind of is the best player. I mean, he spots these just little tactics to get out of trouble. I mean, I think the first world champion I can remember he did this very regularly was Alekhine. He used this tactic, and you want to do these positional things on the board, and you have to use tactics to sometimes get your positional desires on the board, and this is a perfect example of that. I probably wouldn't have seen bishop h3. I probably would have just been, I lose a pawn here, and I would have gone very passive. Had I seen the tactics, I'd love to play this move, get rid of white's great bishop, open up the rook, and it's these little things which might save the game, right? And that is a nice tactic. So easy to miss as well, right? Really easy to miss.
Magnus, with his incredible ability to piece up all the minute details in the position, strategic ideas with a tactical offense on the board to keep pieces defended, makes him one of the greatest players of all times. And I want our body language expert to step in right now. Magnus, with folded arms, what does that tell us about what's going on the board?
Well, generally, when you lean back in life, I'm assuming I'm still the body expert. When you lean back and you like relax a little bit, your arms, they're not crossed, that'd be a bit too defensive. He's just covering his face like this, very relaxed. Look at that, head to the side. Especially when you go to the right-hand side, you're recalling the good moments in your life. And when you have the pineapple hair as well, it gives you that radar to pick up certain positive force.
I'm really glad you
way.
brought that up because we have not talked nearly enough about Magnus's hair. Can we just?
I like it.
Can we talk about that for a second?
I think we can, Danny. I mean, it just reminds me of a cool pineapple. But it's cool, right? I mean, I like it. I like the long hair. What do you reckon, Dave?
No comment on the hair.
No comment. Okay.
Great hair quality, but the hair quality today is.
Wow. Well, no one can talk enough about Magnus's hair, but I want to get back to the position because the pawn on e5 has been taken and it feels like LPDO, loose pieces drop off. So many tactics. What's going on here?
Yeah, sacrifice. One word for Wesley So right now. He's given up material. Yes, he grabbed a pawn, but he's actually the one going down in a minute because White's rook and White's bishop in the center both attacked simultaneously. He has to give up some material now. It's just how to do it.
He shook his head while we were distracted when he went for it. Now he does choose to sack the exchange by bishop c7. He could have also played rook takes c6, right? Yeah. Which was the type of exchange sacrifice we were talking about earlier. I don't know if we want to analyze that because I'm curious why he went for that instead of rook takes c6. Yeah. There's a fork, as David is highlighting. But if you take, whether you take or even keep the dark square bishop, I felt like this was a little more of the traditional type of exchange sack you can see, meaning back up the bishop on the diagonal. At the same time, I mean, the eval says for a reason black would have a small edge, but these positions are full of long-term compensation. It's curious to me that he took on c7, giving up the rook on c5, because he didn't make black's pawn structure any worse if we look at the live game here. Black's pawn structure is totally fine here.
Maybe he's banking on the fact that, kind of opposed to that previous variation, at least he's got a passed pawn that can start running.
Yeah, that's fair. And the d6 square is available for the bishop or the knight long term.
But Magnus doesn't go for it. Instead, he hits the bishop on c7.
Yeah, just kicking this bishop out, no matter where the bishop retreats. I think next move he'll potentially go for it, unless he keeps kind of playing tickle with this bishop and kind of keeps attacking it with his rook or his queen. Interesting
but Wesley
move.
could sack the exchange now.
Yeah, you can take this piece
and then bishop f4.
Anyone's game.
Anyone's game, and that's what Wesley needs, right? I mean, he has to win. He has to win one of these 3 games. I mean, so he's got to take risks. Before the show, we were saying Wesley's a bit averse to taking risks, and I think in this game he's doing the right thing, right? I mean, he's being brave. Got to be brave. But it's weird. He's being brave and he was shaking his head.
I wondered if he was shaking his head in hindsight based on the move he played or the fact that he took so much time to do it. Because he's still down 4 minutes on the clock, and sometimes a player is shaking their head, and we think it's because of the last move, and they're like, yo, bro, you got to move faster. Just like, wake up, shaking their own head. So I don't know. I mean, I think the position is objectively playable. I love the pass d pawn, as you highlighted, David. There's compensation here for Wesley.
I think it's a lovely position for White. I mean, I know the evaluation bar says equal, but again, if we just forget about the evaluation bar or even just bear it in mind and think, who's got the easier moves to play? Yep. This is such a big question in chess. Is it me or is it my opponent? Is it White? Is it Black? Well, White pushes Derek the d pawn all the way.
Is it Derek? Is it Derek? It's not Daryl. It's not Danny, Doug, or Danny.
Yeah,
David. Got my own name. David.
Today it can be Derek, but on other days we will go David or Daniel if you want.
No, I mean, I saw a comment by chat that Wesley's losing because of his time management, and as much as chat knows, I love disagreeing with them. I agree. Yeah. I think that even with Magnus's great prep in the last game, ultimately what happened, Wesley held, and then he blundered because he almost ran out of time. In this game, he's got a good position, but he's down almost 4 minutes on the clock. So it's rapid for a reason.
Yeah. Let's do the math here. Black has got an extra rook, and White, which is worth 5 points. White has got a minor piece for 3 points and 2 pawns. So it's sort of an imbalance, but still balanced in a way. We see the bar somewhat level, and I want to get your opinion. Would you like this position? Would you like to play this position as Black or White?
Are we voting?
Yes, we are.
Okay, everyone write down your answers. No, I'm kidding.
I think everyone's just going to say White.
I would rather play White.
I think it's you can't say black in this position. It's just 100% white.
I think it's 50-50 eval by the engine for a reason. I mean, let's let David speak for himself.
White.
Okay, we all want white.
White?
But Tanya,
White
maybe
and
you want
white.
black.
Oh, this is tough. But you know what? I might have that bias of who is playing black, but I get it. That white just feels like you've got easier play, a clear plan ahead. And in these time formats, it's all about how easy it is that you can make fast moves in the position. The plan that you've been highlighting with the D pawn moving forward makes so much sense right now. And with black not having enough pieces to really build an attack against white's king, so many trades have happened. It looks like Wesley's the one who's got that slight edge right now. But with the clock sticking low, it's a game for all three results. And maybe draw is the least likely of them.
It is a game for all three results. You highlight the clock, the 17th piece, and of course they're both going to be under 5 minutes here soon. But I want to highlight for those who might prefer the rook so that they don't feel bad out there, even if we all chose it. I think there's a reason you could do that because, look, objectively the rook was given the value of 5 versus 3 for the minor pieces for a reason, because as the board opens up, the rooks have more pure power, right? They can control more squares. And at some point, if white isn't accurate when the time scramble ensues, those rooks are going to get going, right? The open files will be available.
And was that a mistake by Wesley? Sorry, Danny.
Yeah, no, it's okay. And anyway, so it's the rooks are there for a reason. I think Wesley just wants to really protect c5 with d4 next.
Yeah, and at first thought, I thought, okay, white's bishop is lacking squares. Maybe it's something to do with that the evaluation bar reacted there. But white's bishop does have a nice outpost, a nice perch to sit on d6, protected by a pawn. Confusing to me. I think for both the players, neither of them will regard this as a mistake, even if objectively there is something in the position. And for Magnus, that would have been an expected move. He looks, looks like he's struggling to come up with a plan as black.
I think I saw it.
Okay,
I see it.
Bring it, Danny.
I think it's g5 for black.
Let's jump in
and then
show
when
this.
it goes to d6, you can play b6.
Okay.
And undermine the bishop's protection. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But I'm like, why did the engine... Okay, I'm wrong. I thought this was maybe the idea. Like, what is the unique reason why e3 suddenly gives black an edge? It turns out that the computer thinks this is fine. I guess white could just play d4. Okay, I'm wrong. Well, I was just guessing, okay? trying to figure out. But knight e7 instead doesn't do any better.
Yeah, maybe the idea is now this pawn is attacked, and for example, if I just defend it, your same idea, Danny, maybe. But firstly, do we push the pawn? And then, okay, evaluation bar says no. This bishop is running out of squares. Maybe you go the other way. The other natural move here would be to plant the knight in the center. And this bishop, still a bit loose. And suddenly, if you look at white's position, it's all about the dark squares. Pawn chain here on the dark squares. Maybe the light square's just slightly tender.
I'm changing my mind, guys. I think I might go with black.
It's still tense, though. I've got to say, to a human, it's not obvious at all.
No, maybe it's just in the balance. I mean, the computer's always right, isn't it? I mean, at the end of the day, I was just assuming white's position is so much easier to play. But now that knight's getting a bit funky, and it is getting a little bit funky, isn't it? It's dancing around, creating some problems. It's not clear at all. And this move, okay, well, you attack the queen. You might try to reroute the knight to b3 over to the queen side. Kind of makes some sense to do this. An ideal square for that knight could be like a5 in some situations. c4, d6 would be lovely, but black gets some moves as well. And how do you defend c5 now? The bishop comes in. You stop knight f5. Yeah, it's very, very tense, isn't it?
Yeah, but that b6
really
idea, okay. And
Great call there,
I was
Danny.
coming back to it, and I think it's...
Yeah, it's a nice idea.
And sorry.
This is...
Wait.
Whoa, what just happened? Look at that last move that Magnus just played.
Yeah, temporary piece sacrifice. Magnus gave up the black knight, but just by capturing pawns, he was attacking there just temporarily, white's knight and white's bishop at the same time, and white couldn't save them both. And here we see still the same material imbalance, knight and 2 pawns for a rook, but Danny called it. The lines have opened up, the position is exploding, and for rooks, that is a good sign. White's knight looks nice and pretty in the center, but black's rooks have access.
It's totally turned around. But Wesley didn't have to part ways with the bishop. Let's back up. Like, you could have moved the bishop and given up the knight. I wonder if that's what the computer wanted to do. Instead of bishop takes c5 after the temporary piece sacrifice. It's kind of funny because there was something to this position that...
But maybe it's not possible to save this bishop. It's just really clever by Magnus. He forced white to give up this piece rather than the knight. Here you want a bishop maybe in the center, for example, because pawns are on both sides of the board, the bishop with a long range. But you can't save this piece anyway. So he thought he had to give it up for the pawn. And yeah, let's just check out this position. Magnus is giving up a third pawn. Okay, it's just been captured. He's going for checkmate. He's going to try and break through on the back rank.
I like it. And also that H-pawn, I mean, it's very natural to use the H-pawn in these positions where white has moved to the dark squares, fianchetto, but lost the fianchetto bishop. That is often a very good way to attack. And heating up, though, because obviously white's the pawn up, right? White has the extra pawn. That white knight, beautiful piece, I guess. I mean, you can't move it. It seems like a nice piece, but I'm also thinking, you know, maybe you need that to come back to defend in some cases.
I've got to ask, what is the answer to this? It looks terrifying here for Wesley So. Suddenly, his rook is going to be traded and his king's going to be naked, just forced around the board, maybe.
And it's on the board. We're going to find out. Maybe that knight you mentioned has to jump back to take control of that back rank C1 square. Knight E2, but that runs into a nasty check, David.
Yeah, you're right. This check, Tanya, in the corner.
I think one of the key ideas, though, is that black isn't actually threatening anything in the current position. Like, you can move the queen to B5, try to offer a queen trade, maybe A4. Okay, that doesn't work.
Yeah, maybe A4.
Okay, yeah, my point is, like, if black takes F1, you take, and you check. The king's going to run to E2, and we're getting out.
But he made a mistake.
Oh, I don't know. Queen H1 looks scary. Oh, no, maybe. Yeah, you go to E4.
He's gone with Harry the H-pawn, and uncharacteristically, it turns out to be a bad move.
What?
Uncharacteristically of Harry.
The computer's just gone haywire. How can H4 ever be a bad move? Well, there's got to be some nasty tactics there, isn't there? I mean, the first thought I was thinking is that you can take the rook and just go for checkmate, but maybe there's something stronger.
Well, Magnus has that look of like, wait a second.
Yeah, he's seen something.
There has to be something here, right?
He smells it.
But can't you just take the rook, bring the other one down, put the queen in the corner? Is there something wrong with that?
Straight for it, Simon.
Just threaten checkmate. Yeah, I mean that would be. You should always look for the most forcing moves, right? And you should always look for the captures, and you should also look at ways you can create threats. And
yeah, so you just take and then queen H1 and rook C1.
Simple. Threaten queen D1, checkmate in the final.
What's funny in the end of that line is that the rook and the queen guard all white's counterplay. There's no queen A8 or queen C8.
So there might be something else because the computer doesn't like this, but I would be scared here, definitely, if I was white.
Check this out. I've cheated. I would have resigned here as a player, but I've cheated and checked the computer. Apparently, white just steps forward and starts running.
So calm. So calm.
No way.
Oh, my words. How can you do that? I mean, that is computer chess, isn't it?
David, look at what Magnus has played.
He didn't play the best move. It's a good move, we should mention. I think this showed up as one of the top moves. But yeah, just to highlight here, Magnus could have won on the spot. I think the idea was actually just this check on H5. I think this would have been a really nasty blow. And if you're, for example, forced to push your pawn, this white king now is pretty much trapped. And any check on the second rank, I'm not sure how you get there. Maybe you go back and threaten checkmate. This looks like it would have been decisive. But Magnus not going for the brute force approach, instead just shuffling his king. We call this a very high-class move, just preempting any checks from the white queen. He's just waiting, but yeah, maybe missed a small opportunity.
I like that move, though, because, again, he didn't see this check and then queen H5 check, but this is a high-class waiting move, right? You avoid your opponent's checking chances, right? You're really putting Wesley So in a tough spot, by the way, with only 1 minute and 20 seconds left, because now how do you deal with the threats, right? And we see he couldn't do it accurately. He plays queen A4, which helps black's advantage increase a little bit.
And now we see the evaluation from the engine. There's only one winning move. Everything is actually almost level, according to the computer there.
Critical moment for Magnus Carlsen here. He has to find the rook trade, the only move, and the follow-up. That's the most important thing. If he doesn't find the follow-up, he might choose an alternative, and that would just destroy his entire advantage in the position. He's touching the 2-minute mark. David, do you see the finishing line after the rook trade?
I don't see it yet. Magnus doesn't see it yet. For sure, the best move, okay, he's played it. I was going to say the best move is also the most natural move, but you called it, Tanya. The follow-up is the key. Often players don't blunder because of the first move. It's always the final follow-up, and still winning position here. Is it a check with that black queen? Do you dive in now? Maybe it's more effective now with white's queen, unable to check the black king. He does dive in. Your idea, Simon?
I mean, this is the simple way, isn't it? I mean, because the white king just looks, you know, even if white can defend this somehow, which I don't think he can now, you've got two major pieces, big pieces, the biggest pieces, attacking a naked king. And it's not good to be a naked king. You can get arrested, you can get in trouble.
Well,
just
you
put
get
your clothes
arrested if
back
you're a
on, you know?
king. You get stories written about you. The emperors
I suppose
has
so.
no clothes and that kind of thing.
I don't think Prince Charles, well, not Prince, King Charles will try this, but no, but yeah, it's just too exposed, isn't it? This king, I feel, and you're going to have to. Can you play this E4 move again? He doesn't play it. He's trying to bring his pieces back, but...
It's funny, though, because I still don't see the mate, Simon. And one of the funny things about this is the queen and knight are really pesky. And I just want to highlight that while E4 maybe didn't work there, if black messes up just one move, that white king is going to run into the middle of the board, and he already has a defender waiting for him. The knight is so pesky when it comes to eliminating the opponent's check. So this is an eval bar for Magnus to take. But I feel like the position is more complex than that does credit, right? I feel like this is a little bit harder for Magnus to convert than first, because find the knockout blow. Like, I don't have an engine in front of me. Like, where's black's win?
And you've only got 1 minute 30, even if you're Magnus Carlsen, to find the knockout blow here. I agree. It's not that simple. I mean, you've got many moves which you have. This is where calculation is so important. This is why you train the puzzle rush. This is why you train your puzzles, so you can work these things out quickly, because you check with the rook. And I think this is the right way of doing it, because you force the king into a more exposed situation. Now I'm thinking, do you bring the queen over? But you have to calculate this, right, David? I mean, okay, wow.
By the way, he's giving up the F7 pawn, but it would be mate if you go for it. We can show that if we want, because it's queen C1 first and then queen D1. You have to keep the king in the cage.
Is that just the end?
Queen C1 and queen D1.
Is that literally just as simple as that? Rook B1 and there's no move?
Oh, wait, that was it, because you can't play. I didn't realize you can't play queen C2, because queen E1's mate.
I think it's just as simple as that.
And your
There's
queen's
nothing.
Wesley's shaking his head.
And that's it.
He's going to resign.
Yeah. And if Magnus wins this, he takes a 2-point lead. He'll need a draw to become champion of the Aimchess Rapid. And it looks like the only good move that Wesley has here is hit the button.
Just resign. I think he has to resign, and it's just the Magnus show today, isn't it?
7 seconds.
Would you fight on? Would you give up the queen for the rook and try and set up a fortress with the king, knight and pawns?
It's mate in one.
He's going to allow mate.
And that's it. Wow. Magnus Carlsen with the black pieces delivers checkmate and takes his second win. And there he is. What a performance he's had today in his grand final. This guy is unstoppable.
He really is. And I think Wesley has been close in a couple of these games, but you see him shaking his head, knows that he's not as sharp as he needs to be if he's going to take down the world number one. So unfortunate for Wesley. It's a tough spot to be in there, despite how great those trophies look. And his back is against the wall.
Yeah.
His back against the wall, but Wesley So is a fighter. He's in a must-win situation in the next round. A draw would mean Magnus wins the whole thing. And so far, it's been a Magnus Carlsen show. What was the big moment in this one, David?
For me, it was when Magnus found a way to activate his rooks. The position was imbalanced. We were actually praising White's position. We thought great chances, but this little sequence opened up lines and set up the winning tactic. It was here with White's bishop looking mightily strong. Magnus first undermined its protection. This pawn now kicked away from the defense of this bishop. Here, Wesley decided, okay, I've got to move it. I've got to take this knight. And now a really clever move by Magnus. Not the automatic recapture, the most natural move. Instead, the sneaky pawn takes pawn. This bishop is trapped anyway. And this knight is now attacked. And this is how black's rooks got active. Suddenly, this rook on an open line, backed up with the stacked up rooks here, and penetration along the back rank. This was the beginning of the end, and in practical terms, even if there was a defense for Wesley, it was just too much. The white king, as we saw, was pushed to the center and then eventually checkmated.
And delivering that checkmate with the queen and the rook at the end of the game. A masterpiece there by Magnus Carlsen, which gives him his second win in the match. Once again, game 3, Wesley has to win, or the Aimchess Rapid comes to an end with Magnus Carlsen as champion. We will be back with the crucial, very important game 3 in just a few.
It doesn't look like much, but neither would a Sicilian defense to the untrained eye. This is a performance enhancer. You don't see it? How about now? Manage your air quality, sharpen your performance, change the game with Air Things.
Wesley So has to find a way to put Magnus Carlsen on the spot in this upcoming game. Meanwhile, Danny, you've been putting a lot of the locals in Oslo on the spot.
I have, and it's appropriate that we've been talking about Magnus's hair today because some of the answers to the next interview that I gave with the awesome strangers on the street directly called out some things about Magnus's hair and the choice that I gave them between Magnus Carlsen or Peter Northug.
Okay.
Can anyone hear
We can't hear
Ask you
it.
some questions real quick. If I say Magnus Carlsen, do you know who I'm talking about?
Is that the Norwegian chess player?
He's the Norwegian chess player.
Yeah.
If it was Peter Northug or Magnus Carlsen, who would you go with?
I don't know who the other person is.
Oh, he's okay. I guess that answers the question. Magnus, you win on that one. If you had a chance to date Peter Northug or Magnus Carlsen, who would it be?
Magnus.
Magnus? 2 for Magnus, 0 for Peter. Take that, Peter. We're coming for you. Who do you think is a more eligible bachelor, Magnus Carlsen or Peter Northug?
Definitely Magnus.
Okay, agreed. Yeah. Who's a more eligible bachelor? Who would you rather date if you were into that? Peter Northug or Magnus Carlsen?
Oh, Joe, that's a difficult question.
Difficult question.
Blonde, dark, smart, even smarter. Peter, maybe.
Oh, man, it's okay. Peter gets one. Thank you. Damn it. Magnus Carlsen or Peter Northug? Who would you rather hang out with?
Magnus Carlsen.
Okay. Ma'am, if you had to date Magnus Carlsen or Peter Northug, who would you rather date?
I don't know. I don't know who they are.
You don't know who either one of them is?
No.
Just based on the sound of their name, who would you choose?
All right, give me them names again.
Magnus Carlsen or Peter Northug?
Magnus.
Boom! Take that, Peter. Okay, that was amazing. If you had a chance to hang out with Magnus Carlsen or Peter Northug, who would it be?
I don't know who the second person is, so Magnus.
Magnus wins again. I'm trying to lead you back to chess here. If I say Magnus Carlsen.
I don't know who he is.
You don't know who Magnus Carlsen is?
No.
Okay. He's a professional footballer, one of the most well-known in Norway.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so Magnus Carlsen, the professional footballer. If you had a chance to date Magnus Carlsen or Peter Northug, who would it be?
Magnus Carlsen.
Magnus Carlsen?
Yeah, Magnus.
There we go. I think that answered all the questions we need. Magnus Carlsen wins the battle.
Magnus Carlsen there, the star boy of Oslo. That was a clean sweep.
I have to say that just because there is movie magic involved in all the editing, I want people to know that it literally was that much of a landslide. So I'm not trying to call out Peter or anything. I don't think we cut a single one of the questions.
But you know where you went wrong, Danny?
What?
You should have said Magnus or me.
Oh,
no, then it would have been a bit more
equal. Not even close. No, Magnus takes the day, and it shows that his celebrity is still high despite no longer being world champion here in Oslo.
Despite the pineapple on his head.
Despite the pineapple on his head. That was the one thing we cut. There was someone who directly called out his hair and was like, I would date Magnus, but he needs to get control of the hair and the beard. Remember?
Yeah.
It happened. She said it. So anyway, I guess we cut that one. So there you go, Magnus.
And he has been having a go today on the chessboard as well. Takes that 2-point lead against Wesley So in the grand final. Wesley So has his task cut up. He needs to win the next game. It's a must-win situation for him. He's a big fighter. And here's Robert Hess on what makes Wesley one of the strongest players on the planet.
If you're in a must-win situation, you do not want to face Wesley So. One of the most precise players in chess history, he makes very few mistakes, and when he has an advantage, he does not let it slip out of his grasp. Just ask Magnus Carlsen. In the 2019 Fischer Random World Championship, Wesley So dominated his final match against Magnus Carlsen. Very one-sided affair that showcased how strong Wesley can be when he's at his best. Back towards standard chess, he plays a healthy dose of 1e4. In fact, he made a chessable course, over 50 hours worth of material on the move e4 and all the ins and outs of the positions he likes. While Wesley So may be one of the most precise players, it does not mean he's unafraid to take risks. In this 2016 Blitz game against none other than Garry Kasparov, Wesley, he sacrificed a pawn, he has a lead in development, and he played the spry b4 move, giving up another pawn, because after c takes b4, he made his rook to c1, a pin along the c file, and after black developed with knight to e7, queen b3, the attack raged on, and Wesley won a very nice game. So he is showing that he is unafraid to enter tactical territory if the position calls for it.
One of the most precise players, Wesley So there, but he is having a tough run today in the grand final. And take a look at that, just some of his biggest achievements. He is the 3-time US champion. an Olympic medalist. He is the Chess.com global champion from 2022. And Danny, that was a fantastic, convincing, dominating performance by Wesley.
Yeah, and it was a super hard event, too. I think people forget it was a 64-player knockout, and people were going home all the time, and he made it all the way to the end, was the last man standing. So, yeah, Wesley, great. Also the 2019 Fischer Random World Champion, where he beat Magnus Carlsen, but he doesn't seem to be great today.
And he's in a must-win Game 3 right now, Simon, against the GOAT, Magnus Carlsen.
Yeah.
In percentage terms, how much would you give that to Wesley?
To win the next game, it's going to be really tough. I mean, he's got the black pieces, 10%. I mean, he's also going to be affected by the first 2 games. He kind of knows he has to win 2 games in a row and then win the Armageddon. He's got to win 3 games effectively, and you're playing the best player in the world. He's beating you down. You're not on form. Everything's going a bit funny today, isn't it? To be honest, and it's tough. I mean, but we must give credit to Magnus, right? I mean, we're talking about Wesley. Wesley's a fantastic player, but Magnus, I mean,
what did he do this morning? Danny, do you have some intel on that? Because he seems like he just has come, I don't know, like super fresh and just dominating this match.
His cardio was great. David, you want to talk about it?
No comment, Danny.
No comment. Magnus is good at a lot of things, and we had fun this morning playing some paddle. For the first time in my life, and being Magnus's teammate when you're learning a new sport, let me just say, is a little hard, because he can be harsh on you when you make some mistakes. No, but it was actually really great and a lot of fun, and David was there too.
Yeah, Danny and Magnus beat me and Uskild there. So great warm-up apparently, and here we see Wesley getting ready. I will say, he does have history in some of those finals we talked about in the Champions Chess Tour back in 2021. He did win a couple of games in a row against Magnus. He won one of those finals when he was behind. He can also maybe take inspiration from Abdusattorov nearly beating Magnus in one of those games when Magnus was already 2 points up and relaxed too early. But with black, that's the big challenge. E4 on the board, and Wesley, any predictions? How do we think he's going to open? He can't go for his usual solid stuff.
Yeah, I mean, this is a tough thing. And we saw earlier on in the competition that Fabiano had exactly the same problem. He paused after E4. And it's funny to see that Magnus plays E4 when he's happy with a draw. You know, this is how things have changed maybe in the last century of chess. He plays other openings he really wants to push, but E4 he's safe. This is probably the best option, the Sicilian. You can often get a double-edged move, but maybe Magnus will close things down now, either with a check or by playing possibly C3 here. There's many ways you can close it down here. But I think Sicilian's the best punt.
Sorry, Tanya, go ahead.
I was going to actually throw this to you, Danny, that this opening approach by Simon, is that more because of the match situation than anything else?
I think for sure, and I think Simon's correct.
Did I say Simon?
You did.
I said Simon.
Hey, Simon was the last one speaking.
Did you compare me to Wesley there?
I just got
totally
Wesley's
appropriate Freudian slip.
Oh my words, that is amazing.
I think the opening comments by Simon and the opening approach by Wesley are both justified, and both because of the match situation. And I'm actually a little surprised to see Magnus go for the open Sicilian, but not then when I see A4, right? What a choice against the Najdorf. Either A4 or G3 are the moves that a Najdorf player doesn't want to see. And this is going to actually turn into a positional game here, because usually A4 is followed by the G3 variations. We'll see if Magnus goes for it. This is going to be a hard one for Wesley to get those very dynamic fighting positions you're used to seeing in the Najdorf. So, okay. But good choice, and let's see how Magnus responds to knight c6.
Yeah, interesting decision, Danny. I would have put all my money there, kind of seeing a check.
C3 or Rossalimo, yeah.
Yeah, just seeing Magnus. I mean, we go back to the World Championship against Anand. Magnus just needed a draw to clinch it. He played bishop b5 check. He knows so much about those openings, how to lock it down in every variation, as Simon pointed out. But this one, even if it's strategic, even if it's more positional than most Najdorf, which is kind of characterized by attacking play here, I think at least there'll be life left.
But do you think it's also because Magnus, he knows that he's in this powerful form right now, and that gives him the confidence to have that little extra fun? We've seen him always wanting to have chess, wanting to have the games go on. So even though he had that option to shut down the opening, this is just Magnus having fun.
Yeah, we saw it by his pose there, still in his sports gear. He's been having fun all day, and yeah, it did nearly backfire. I mentioned that game against Abdusattorov, where Magnus was really out of shape after winning the first 2 games, just needing a draw. Somehow he could never kind of find his rhythm, and saved by a miracle, that one. But if the trend continues today, we could still see a comeback.
I mean, you can relax a little bit too much, can't you? I mean, it's one of the biggest sins, I think, in chess to do. Like, you know, a lot of players, when they get a good position, they're like, OK, I've done the hard work, and they relax and they lose their concentration. And it's the same in a match situation. I mean, Magnus is thinking, only need a draw now. And even though he's, you know, the world champion, one of the biggest fighters ever, he can still relax a little bit here. And I think there's some positive things about this position. It's a very dynamic pawn structure. Black's got more pawns in the centre of the board. That generally means that he's got a favourable positional edge. So a lot can happen here. So it's certainly going to be exciting, whatever the result.
Yeah, and Wesley pausing. This isn't his usual repertoire, we should mention.
Yeah, it's true.
He very rarely plays the Sicilian Najdorf, so we will see him again, just like the previous two games. That narrative will continue. He will be the slower of the two, you imagine, in these early stages. But flexible for Black. I like Black's position here. Still plenty of play ahead. All the pieces on the board, apart from one set of knights. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'm trying to be optimistic. I want more chess today.
You got to be optimistic, but I'll be honest again. Like, I'm replaying the day here, and I'm looking at Wesley once again getting down on the clock, and your heart goes out to him. Given, I really want to go back to that game one. He defended so well. He earned that half-point hold, which was going to put the match on a completely different trajectory. The momentum would have been. It's like a sliding doors moment in the multiverse, right? And that blunder has not been recovered from.
And that happens, right, in these match formats. If we think about the 2021 World Championship, it took one game, game 6, for Jan to fall apart. And here we see Wesley, everything under control in that game. Do you think it all comes down to that moment? The way the match has progressed, Wesley blundering in that last move, losing that game, which is why we're seeing the outcome that we are?
It's easy to say in hindsight, but I think it's just been the general pattern. It's just the fact that he's been lower on the clock. It's been a bunch of things. Magnus's openings seem to be kind of better studied here, more well-honed. It's a variety of factors which have added up to that blunder in game one. But yeah, it's hard to say. Simon, any optimism here?
Not really, no. No, I've got to be honest. I mean, I think it's going to be very hard for Wesley. I mean, just also, again, just the way the match has gone. I think that first game was key. I mean, it's an interesting position, so, you know, let's not give up hope. But, I mean, maybe it's a personal thing. I prefer White in these positions because White gets the easier attack. When Black castles, White's bishop is beautifully pointing towards the Black king over there. And this is always something that Black has to worry about. But when I say no hope, it's only because the way the match has gone. It's actually a very interesting and dynamic position. So from that side, there's still fight here. But again, it's just Magnus. He's just been on such great form.
Yeah, yes.
I mean, like, his openings have been really, really amazing. And there's just been some little moves he's done, which I don't think other players would have played. I loved his King H7 in that last game. Just a little, just some real subtleties, which is just, you know, it's just quite hard to even pick up on these subtleties, but it's just put him in a class of his own so far.
Magnus has not lost a chess game in quite a while, by the way. He went 9 out of 9 on the day one of the Blitz in Zagreb, went 6 of 9. I don't think he lost that day. I think he drew a few.
I think he did lose to Faruja.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Cool. But,
okay, never mind.
I mean, this tournament, has he lost one?
This tournament he has not lost.
Undefeated in the Aimchess Rapid. And he's made it look easy. Hasn't gone to a single Armageddon either. So the players have really been struggling against Magnus in this one. Strongest player on the planet currently, and he is making it very tough for Wesley So in this match. Wesley goes with the castle. There is tension in the center, and whenever this happens for White here, you've got to decide what you really want to do with that. Do you want to trade, push the pawn, or just keep the tension? How would you approach this position?
Can I just suggest one crazy idea? Because, you know, I really want to give up my bishop. And I want to swing it around, and you know, I mean, I think this is the first thing you should look at, right? This E5 move, because you force the knight to move. The knight has to go somewhere passive, and of course, you must look at the attacking moves. So I'm just wondering if it's playable. I don't think it is. If I take on H7, bring my queen in, and try to swing the rook around. And the evaluation bar was saying, "You're an idiot, Simon. Don't even think about it. What are you doing?"
It's a good idea, but I think Black can play F5, maybe F6, and in both cases he gets out.
Yeah, maybe G6 is. It's just the first thing I guess you should be looking at, just to demonstrate some of the attacking ideas that White has, because obviously if the rook comes here, it can get a little bit scary, not in this position, but these threats are just lingering there at least, and you calculate them, okay, they don't work.
Some ideas are meant to be looked at and not actually gone for.
That's right.
I've been trying to teach you this for so long.
I know.
Are we still talking about chess, or is that life wisdom?
Danny gives me these little life lessons all the time. I try to learn, but they don't always sink in.
Obviously, I'm totally kidding. But you're making a great point that you have to have those types of ideas first and foremost on your brain, because if you don't, you might miss them. And you don't want to miss the opportunity to cash in, and those things can lead to the most devastating attacks. But that said, you also have to always calculate attacks and sacrifices,
100%.
assuming they don't work. You have to look for your opponent's defense rather than looking to kind of make them work, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the first thing you should look at.
Yeah.
But you have to calculate it. You can't, I mean, so many players have played that. Hopefully I wouldn't without thinking. And if you see a defense, you look at something else. But it's a critical idea, and it just shows you that black king is always a target, right, to that kind of idea. Even rook a4 is the kind of stupid move I'd be looking at here. But
no, I actually love that. I almost said bleep an idea, but then Tanya would have yelled at me because she doesn't want to bleep things out. But I actually love that idea, and as much as we're having fun here, you're totally right. And honestly, whether the idea of sacrificing right now works or not, you have to have it on your brain, because one little detail changes.
Yeah.
Right? And it actually might work. So you always have to be calculating that. And your rook a4 move, I have a prediction that Simon looked into a crystal ball there. I think at some point in this game, if this turns into attack, we might see that move.
That rook coming around, yeah. I mean, it's just dangerous for black, this, David. I mean, would you be happy being black here in this position?
I would be happy being black if that central tension that Tanya alluded to, if it does get clarified. If, for example, white stepped forward in the center, blocked it up too early, and nothing happened on the king side, let's assume black doesn't get checkmated, then suddenly black's pawns in the center and queenside could start rolling. But yeah, as long as this central tension remains, I think it favors white, this position, and that's purely because I'm looking at black's light squared bishop. It's never getting out of the pawn chain. It moves, but it's still blocked. And unless white allows this bishop to come out somehow, then I think Magnus is very comfortable. And I would just keep this tension as long as possible for white. Just maybe bring out the white queen now, and decide what to do with that rook later, either to a4 or swing it across to d1. And yeah, just sit on this position. It's hard to come up with active plans for black.
I mean, you can even bring the queen to h3 and just line that up. That's another very common theme in this type of position. And actually, you spoke about Magnus kind of using the same idea in totally different openings. It's something you're doing like the London system. It's something you're doing like a lot of d4. But maybe that's another idea here. Put the queen on h3 with a big threat. Many ideas that white can play.
Should we have a vote? Who would you prefer here? Which position?
I mean, I think it's clear.
It's going to be white.
It's clear, yeah. I mean, I love attacking. White's the only side with the attacking chance. Black's got to get the counter-attacking chances. 100% white for me, yeah.
That's the story.
I think black has potential, though. I mean, white should sit on the tension because you don't want to play e5 or take on d5 unless there's some sort of real thing you're cashing in on. But black is also going to play d4 and c5 if you give them the opportunity, and open up that bishop on b7. I think the biggest problem is that even if you play d4 and c5, it actually doesn't take away white's chances of getting this e5 idea, this e5 attacking idea. By the way, I wonder if the move is going to be...
Oh, sorry.
Was the move going to be something like knight a4 there? But that's usually another plan to watch out for.
Maybe to come round this way.
You go that way. And go to c4. Very nice.
Sit on a beautiful outpost here.
Yeah. Knight a4 would have hung the a5 pawn, I assume.
Yeah, it's like you say, Danny, just the problem is black can advance, but you're only leaving weaknesses behind, and this knight, if it jumps in, beautiful. Just to show Simon's idea as well, let's say black plays a couple of moves. At the very least, you can park your queen in h3, kind of line up, and yeah, again, if black is careless and does a nothing move, then just to show this tactic, suddenly the knight is kicked away, and there are attacking ideas on both sides of the board. It just feels like you're stuck. I love this move personally.
I love queen of3. It's a great move, Simon.
Well, I think David said it first, and it makes a lot of sense, but I will always claim David's moves. Give me a chance.
In my world, you said it first, so...
You're thinking the right way. That's it.
Thinking the right way.
But yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, and as you say, the other rook can just come into the middle. Good coordination with white's pieces, and it's difficult, isn't it, for black? Because black's got to sit there and kind of wait. I mean, can black push those pawns? I'd love to push the C pawn or something to try and create some chances over there. Otherwise, I'm very passive as black here.
Yeah, Magnus, for the first time really in the match, is significantly behind on the clock. 4 minutes down now. It feels like maybe the pressure of finding a plan, of doing something with white, is getting to him. Often these positions, we see so many ideas for white, but that can be a mixed blessing. Suddenly he's kind of looking, okay, I can go on the attack. Maybe now I sacrifice a bishop. He might be calculating one of these long lines. But yeah, burning a lot of time in the process.
First time today, all day. Magnus is the one who's behind on the clock, and he decides to take a decision in the center, which sort of makes his intentions clear. When you push that e-pawn, blocking it down, you're looking for the attack. You're going for your opponent's king. And there we have it, a rook lift. You were talking about the queenside rook moving forward. Same idea, Sai here by Magnus, but he chooses the kingside rook, and now there are real threats on the H-line.
I'm sitting here like...
Scary.
Wow, he just went for that with e5 and rook e3. Magnus only needing a draw, might be going for a 3-0 sweep.
He might be, but David, maybe this is also a good moment to just pull up an analysis board, because that last move by Magnus, it did allow a trick by black. Why does that not work?
Oh, yes. Let's just go back a couple of moves. Let's rewind. It took me a while because there are so many tricks here, Tanya, to realize which one you mean. Here after rook e3, I'm guessing you mean d4.
Yes.
Double attack.
Forking the knight and the rook.
Yeah, and here, Simon, I think, would have been a prophet if this had happened. Bishop takes pawn now would have lured the black king out into the open. Now you give it a check. Oof. And I think this time it might be different because, for example, after a move like f6, Simon.
I was just going to say thanks, guys, for trying to make me look good. It's, happens occasionally. But yeah, it's just horrible, isn't it? Here, I mean,
yeah, I was going to say Magnus could. Firstly, the evaluation bar says winning, but I don't see the win. I was just going to point out a draw is enough for you, so maybe you can just come back and
to win the match anyway.
Clinch the match. The black king, I don't think can hide. If you block, then this is going to end in disaster with a check and a pin, and all these tactics. Just freestyling some moves here, but this type of thing would have been in the air. And yeah, let's catch up with the current position.
I mean, I love what's going on here. It's a great position. I think there's a threat of a draw here with rook h7, right? Yeah, this is like if c5, which obviously Wesley will see. Yeah. You can take on h7, and this should force a draw. Maybe this is why Magnus went for it, because he saw this kind of
let's show the whole thing, because even on king g7, you can play queen h6 and bishop takes g6, and just like that, you have to capture to avoid checkmate, which leads to a perpetual. So I'm really glad you pointed that out, because there's the meta within the game here, right? Not only is white putting pressure and launching a potentially very dangerous attack, but also threatening to end the game immediately the peaceful way.
And end the match.
End the match, yeah.
Wow. So a big threat on the board that might not win on the spot, but gets the job done for Magnus Carlsen. Wesley So has to find a way to not let that happen. And David, is there an easy out for Wesley here?
Yeah, I think Wesley saved me there. I think black's only move to avoid that trick that Simon mentioned was to push his f-pawn. Anything else would have just been too dangerous. And after this en passant move, capturing black's f-pawn as if it just moved once, yeah, suddenly big decision for Wesley again. Maybe still the same tactic in the air in some lines.
There is, but let's also not overlook the fact that Magnus's plan was very committal. I mean, we love it when we see attacking ideas. We all do, not just Simon. We all love seeing attacking ideas. But at the same time, the rook is on h3, out of play. The rook on a1 is stuck to the a5 pawn. The bishop on f4 is targeted. And by the way, black has a big center here. And Wesley So knows how to use the center. I'm actually sitting here like, look, the game is played for a reason. If the match was over, we would literally all, be somewhere else right now. So I'm a little excited about the potential of this game becoming a 3-result position, and at least giving Wesley a chance.
Totally agree. I mean, actually, the position is extremely double-edged now. I mean, Magnus has a lot of pieces around black's king, but there's no obvious way to break through. Black can always go knight f8. There can't be a mate. But black's centre has got tremendous potential. I mean, if those pawns in the centre get going, black will easily take over the position and get the advantage. I mean, it's very complex, David, but even e5 here is something that must be calculated, I assume. Yeah, I mean, what's happening here?
Yeah, on the board, Simon, and this one's heating up.
Yeah.
Well, things are getting chaotic on the board here. Wesley So creating his chances, and it is a big chance in Division 2 for Dan Laz and Sam Sevian to play with the big boys, with these guys in the next Champions Chess Tour event. And we've got Ketty with us with an update from the match in Division 2.
That's right, Tanya. So far, the match between Danis and Sam is so balanced that there's no favorite. So far, they played 3 games, and all of them are draw. Like equal positions all the time. And to be honest, I see this match going to the Armageddon one more time and waiting for that moment to happen.
And Ketty, if this was to go into the Armageddon, who do you hold as a favorite there?
Just thinking what happened yesterday, Danis Lazovic won the match with the black pieces. I think Danis might be a slight favorite in Armageddon game.
It is a close fight in Division 2 with so much on the line for these two youngsters. Danis against Sam Sevian. What would it mean to these prodigies to make it to Division 1?
It'd be huge, right? Because if they have a chance to go to Toronto, it's more than likely coming with a win at one of these events, right? One of these major events on the tour. I don't think they're getting in via Grand Prix points. And so they're fighting right now for the next huge opportunity in their career. And I'm excited for either one of those guys to have a chance. Sam Sevian was with us in Toronto for the Global Championship, so he might come back, and Lazovic getting a chance would be amazing.
We will check in with Ketty on that match, as there's so much on the line, so much at stake for Dan Laz and Sam Iam. But right now, also a lot on the line for Wesley So. David, we've had a reaction to Wesley's last move. How are we assessing what's going on the board?
Yeah, suddenly the evaluation bar drops, and I think this is reflected in what we were discussing. Black's pawns are rolling, and White's attack, while looking promising, hasn't actually materialized into anything tangible. And are those pawns just rolling? Feels like, momentum Black now.
When Magnus first played Rook E3, I kind of did this. It obviously went for a position where we saw these chances for a sacrifice and a perpetual, but I was surprised, not because it was a bad move. I was surprised because it was probably the most committal way to play the position. Magnus, look at his pieces. Rook, Queen, Bishop on a they're all in literally on the king side. And by the way, the eval bar is going the other way. So we talked about how he got a little bit nervous. Magnus himself said in the interview after beating Nodirbek that he fell asleep at the wheel in Game 3 versus Nodirbek, remember? And then he kind of got lucky because the youngster got a little nervous and blew the rook ending. But Magnus admitted he lost his focus in that third game. You hope it's not happening to him now, because Wesley with a win and momentum might be a little more dangerous than Nodirbek.
100%. I mean, that centre's coming through, isn't it? And I think there's one just really key move here. This looks like a safer option to play first, but if Black can ever play E4, Black's going to take over this game, yeah? I mean, White must sacrifice on that square, I feel. But this is a very nice move as well, because you're lining up against the Queen and the Rook, and White's pieces might just start going to passive squares. And I think Wesley's got a fantastic chance to win this one. Yeah, the best chance he's had so far.
Yeah, suddenly this rook, which looked like it was doing some great work, it wishes it was anywhere but this square. You have to evacuate your queen and your rook from this diagonal over the next 2 moves, and I just don't see a comfortable way to do that. If you move your rook, for example, the black knight is coming. Where's this queen go? I don't see any good squares here either. And like you said, Simon, as soon as the queen moves somewhere safe, then these pawns are just rolling, and these pawns might just march their way down the board, winning pieces, winning material in the meantime.
And by the way, winning on the clock.
Yeah.
Which we haven't seen before in this match. Magnus there leaning in. He is feeling the heat of the situation. It is the first time all day when Wesley has had a good position and that time advantage. He needs to convert this one. But there's still a lot of chess to be played. We know Magnus, it's not over till it's over. He's made all those big comebacks. And for Wesley, how do you assess his chances of making this happen in this game?
I actually think they're very good. And a single win for Wesley So is a different Wesley So. He is arguably the most Jekyll and Hyde player of those in the top 10, because when he's on form, he is dominant. And we've seen that he is now already the first player to enter the loser's bracket in the first round and make it all the way to the grand final. But when he's off form, people remember the 2018 candidates. Wesley doesn't want us to remind him of it, but that's just an example of when the world thought Wesley was ready. He started off poorly and he fell apart, right? So Wesley is a Jekyll and Hyde type of player. You don't want him to win a single game.
And now under 3 minutes for Magnus, and the troubles are just starting on the board.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just not his type of position, Magnus, where he's all in. He likes to be kind of having an option at least to pull the break at some point, maybe transpose into an endgame. But right now, it's kind of find something now or bust. It's horrible, Simon, for White.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite close. I mean, if I was White here, I'd be trying to, I don't know if we can maybe show this, but I'd be getting quite desperate because I can see what's going to happen, as David's shown. My pieces, if I start retreating, I'm probably just going to lose this game because I'm going to get kicked back. Black centre's going to come through. It's so easy for Black to play. So I'd be looking at, like, I know it doesn't work, but knight e4 is the kind of tactic. And if you had your bishop on g5 here, this kind of thing could work. But we'll just show this as pawn takes knight, and I'd want to check here. And after king h8, I'd be wanting to play bishop g5. You know, if my bishop was on g5 originally, and I think this was the big mistake that Magnus played, then rook h7 check would be leading to checkmate. And I think this bishop h6 move that Magnus played, this is just overly confident, and it basically has led to a bit of a superficial position because, you know, Magnus, it looks scary, he's got pieces there, but they're going to get kicked back. None of these tactics now quite work. And he's had to move his rook to a bit of a bad square there, and maybe the queen's going to retreat. So it looks bad for Magnus.
I agree, man. And use the word superficial because the pieces look pretty, but they're not doing much over there. I use the word committal, right? Because they're completely all in on the king side, and if you're not cashing in there, you regret those types of decisions. So when you combine superficial and committal, you get bad romantic comedies. Don't do superficial and committal together, man. Bad rom-com.
Do only one.
You got to do one. You got to be all in on the superficial, keep it casual, or get committed.
Or commit to it. Prediction time. Are we getting a game 4 in this match?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yes.
Ooh,
yeah.
wow.
Yes.
Will we have a match on our hands? And Magnus there looking super uneasy with what is happening. Under 2 minutes on the clock. He's lined up the rook and the queen on the G line right now. Where does he start building his chances to wrap this one up in game 3?
I think Wesley's trying to find a way to just prevent any chance of building a comeback here for Magnus. Wesley, now I think a good moment to just invest a bit of time because the kickback will start. First, Black's knight, I think, is going to choose a square. I'm not sure where it's going to go. It's going to jump to c5, maybe back to retreat, hit that white queen with the black light square bishop, and then the pawns roll. And step 1 will happen. The pawns will continue rolling. The white queen's going to get kicked back. White's rook actually looks really clumsy. Black's rook so far is the MVP, just holding the whole king side together. Normally we talk about the rule of 3. White has 3 attacking pieces here, but can't break through. That black rook too well placed. And I don't see how Magnus is going to do this. I think he needs a helping hand. I think he needs Wesley to go a bit wrong in the next 3 or 4 moves in order to stand a chance. Maybe not kick back the white pieces to the kind of worst squares right now. Difficult.
Wesley's one of the best defenders in the world, right? He is also, we talk about him being a very solid player. How do you assess his skill of being able to convert these kind of positions?
I think he's also one of the most lethal when it comes to converting his advantages. He's, again, this is the type of position that is complicated and requires a technical finish. I think he's actually very good at, similar to Fabiano in that sense, that he tends to navigate the complexity very well. You know, it remains to be seen, but he's also got a 2-minute time advantage. I think that pressure on the clock for Magnus, combined with him just being objectively clearly worse, this makes it very, very tough for Magnus. So I really like Wesley's chances here. We've seen a one-move blunder, unfortunately. Whenever you've seen a one-move blunder already in a match, you worry it could happen again. For those just joining, Wesley was in a dead equal position, drawn game in game 1 and lost in 1 move. So you hope that doesn't happen again, but he's better here.
And chat there rooting for Wesley, Simon.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be great to get another game, yeah? So get 4th game. And also, in the 4th game, Wesley will have white. Let's not forget that. And if Wesley wins that one, well, it could be the start of a remarkable comeback. And maybe we shouldn't jump ahead quite yet, but I mean, just Black's got everything in this position, right? Absolutely everything. White's attack is not happening. You can avoid any of these threats very easily. Look at that center. You talk about a good center. I mean, that is overwhelming. It's just a rolling steamroller of pawns coming through, and I think, you know, the body language we should have a look at. I feel Magnus is got that across his chest, saying, "Yeah, I'm gonna." Going to be going to my grave here.
Shirt.
He just needs to do the other one, and he realises, Magnus, that he should lose this game if Wesley doesn't make a mistake.
We should probably highlight that the reason Wesley kept the rook on the 6th rank, David, if we want to analyze real quick, because I wonder if on rook f7, if there was a bishop takes g6 idea, more drawing chances. Obviously, you have to trade on e7 first, but I think that there actually was something to that, even if it's not a draw. I think blowing open the king was actually kind of dangerous. So maybe he, or at least wants to keep an eye on that pawn, right? He kept the rook on the 6th rank, which is good instructive chess for the viewers anyway. Prophylaxis. Sometimes you stop your opponent's idea before it's even a reality. So whether that sack was going to happen or not, I think he wants to keep his eye on it.
Simon, maybe your prediction will come true. Knight a4 on the board if we see a trade on a4. Guess what's going to happen? Rook take a4. Danny, you called it. You said maybe it would happen as well.
Well, a little different than we thought at this point, because Magnus is worse and that center is rolling. But yeah.
I mean, you've got nothing to lose as white now. You'd love to throw the other rook over and just kind of cross your fingers and hope that something lands, basically. I mean, if you get your rook there, actually, it's another attacking piece and the queen's coming in, so it's not too shabby then. And, this exchange of dark square bishops, it might help white a little bit because the queen can safely come in, but that centre is scary, really, really scary. And maybe black just reroutes his knight into the centre or something now and starts attacking himself. But it's not over. Yeah, it's certainly not over. And the time situation, Wesley is, I don't know, is he getting nervous? This is where it gets dangerous, right? I mean, when he gets down to under a minute, and he realises he should win, but the position's not as easy as he thinks, it can go wrong.
Do you think there's a psychological factor when you're playing against Magnus? You get a better position, sometimes even a winning position, and just that makes you nervous. The fact that you're getting close to it.
I think 100%. Yeah, it's though these guys have played each other enough, right? Wesley, as we saw in the stats before the match started, has racked up 19 wins and 34 draws in his time. He's lost 24 times as well. But so Wesley knows what it's like to win. So I don't know that he's totally thinking about that, but I do think he's thinking about the fact that he's already blown a game today, right? That's the problem, is the most recent memory is hard to shake off without a rest day like you have at other tournaments, right? These online formats are so challenging to the emotional strings of these players because you don't get that time to take a walk on a beach, have a nice dinner, call mom at home, right? That doesn't happen in these events. So I do think he's suffering a little bit from knowing he may not be on form today. So, but we'll see. But, oh wait, F3. What happened? Bad. No. That's a bad move.
Never play F3.
Never play F3. Ben Feingold is right. Darn it.
Yeah, this opens up the white king. Suddenly the black queen swoops
doing
in.
it. Oh, just enters ruthlessly.
Yeah, some big threats. White's queen is overworked, overwhelmed. Black's threatening to actually distract her using the rook on the b file. You can't touch anything near the white king right now, otherwise you'll just get checkmated. You have to bring a rook back to defend the first rank, and a pawn drops off the board. Wesley turns his advantage into something maybe not the most clinical finish there, but the evaluation bar computer making up its mind. Still big advantage black, of course. Pawn up as well. Can Magnus hold this? Putting the ball in the back of the net, that killer touch is still difficult, but he's getting closer.
Just Magnus's position with the king, bishop, queen, rook lined up on that first rank, it looks so dangerous for white. Feels like there should be a finish at this moment. Simon, any ideas and why? And can Magnus even retake that pawn?
No, I mean, I think he's got to try to move his queen in. But I think, yeah, look at the position. The black queen's entered. Black is material up. Wesley also, I like the speed he was moving there. He was playing so confidently. And now maybe the black rook can simply take that pawn, move into the position. So this is going to be critical. But it looks like Wesley's going to get one back here. Magnus with 10 seconds only as well. Yeah, we're going to get a game 4. I'm think pretty sure.
We don't want to jinx it yet, right? Knock on wood. But by the way, E3 was just like lights out for Wesley instead of playing, because E3 threatened D2 to win a piece and the B2 pawn. Anyway, but he should still be good here. He is now up. What is it? Just a clear pawn, along with White's king kind of being open. But I'm not gonna say it's over yet, because I think it was over if Wesley found E3. I don't know that it's over yet. Magnus is back in the drawing chances chair. And he's got 4 chairs. He's back in the drawing chances chair.
It's only a pawn now, isn't it, basically? It's just a pawn. It was more before, and it's just a pawn. I say just a pawn. That should be enough to win, but at this level. But is it going to be enough, David, to win?
I've seen Magnus wriggle out of these positions so many times.
I'm serious. I mean, we don't maybe have time now in the analysis because we're under a minute, but E3 was lights out if we want to quickly show it. So I'm actually not sure anymore at all where we're headed. E3 threatened D2, and the only way to stop losing the piece was to move the queen, and then B2 falls. So this was like lights out, right? And the computer was, okay, maybe not queen D4 there.
Whoops. Double attack. But maybe just wait for a moment, just bring the bishop in. And
bishop f5, C2, B2, everything's falling. And the point is you didn't give up your biggest asset, which was the protected pass pawn, that E pawn. So this is no longer clear at all.
Let's catch up. This is the current position. Still a pawn up for black, but if Magnus gets the queens off somehow, chances. Oh, the bar drops.
And 6 seconds for Magnus, 5. Wesley under 30 seconds as well. He's in a must-win situation, but it's getting closer to draw territory now.
Yeah, I mean, there was a chance missed there by Magnus, but it is getting down to pure bullet blitz now. And for the first time, Magnus's king is pretty safe. And his queen might be able to infiltrate the position. The rook may be able to come in. And it's not easy, actually, this position anymore. It's just not easy for black. I mean, never write Magnus off is just a lesson I've got to learn more and more in any
Simon,
position.
You got to learn that lesson.
I should have learned it over the years by now. But OK, this is looking good, though. The rook is now finding a good way to improve itself. You must stop it coming to G5. And Wesley back on top again. That's a nice manoeuvre there that Wesley's done, getting the rook in front of the bishop so it's not pinned. It's very tense, though. Very, very tense. And is that another pawn that's going to drop?
Looks like it. White's H-pawn is doomed. Black's going to go 2-0 up on the king side here. And, OK, Magnus looking for counter chances. He's going for the black king, big threat. White's rook trying to land on the 7th rank, but Wesley calmly defends. And the problem is it's just one check. OK, 2 checks, but this one is blocked.
Queen G5, rook H7.
Watch out.
Oh, what?
He missed something.
White could have traded off queens. Queen B6 would have forced the queens off.
Oh, my gosh, he missed it.
And Magnus has blundered. He's going to get checkmated here, surely.
And he reacts,
Wesley
and
claps.
Wesley celebrates there. Wow. He wins his first game, and we've got a match on our hands as Wesley strikes back. He's done what seemed the impossible, and we get a game 4.
Wow, and it's funny because in that final moment, the eval bar gave us one last heart attack. Magnus had a draw. He missed it. I bet this is what David's going to show. Wesley puts the game away. Magnus not happy about that, losing with White.
No, he's not happy. He could have wrapped it up in 3 games. And take a look at that. He does it. He gets the job done right there, which means the match is still on. If Wesley wins the next game, it will go into Armageddon. What a crazy fight this was, David.
What a crazy fight. Just those last few moves alone. Wesley was completely winning. 2 pawns up, big attack. For one move, he let it slip, and Magnus was actually winning. And, of course, the game ended abruptly 2 moves later. Let's show those final stages. It was here, White giving a check to the black king, where Wesley did let it slip. He played the most natural move in the position, G5. We can't blame him for this, but it did open up the 6th rank. And if Magnus had spotted the move queen to B6, Magnus might well have just won the Aimchess Rapid. Queens are forced off the board, and suddenly White's pawn is going to do the business. Instead, however, Magnus missed this opportunity, only a few seconds left on his clock. He played a slow move, rook b7, same idea, but this gives black the time to drop in a check, and Magnus here simply resigned because black has multiple winning moves. You can give a check with the black queen, you can give a check with the black rook, and White is about to get checkmated.
We love the drama. I mean, that was incredible. I mean, Wesley So had mission impossible there. I mean, coming back to win with the black pieces after losing 2 games. Who would have thought that was possible? I certainly didn't think it. And Magnus just over-pushing, over-pressing. And at the end, I thought he was going to come back. And he missed the chance there as well. So what's going to happen now?
I think, well, we don't know for a reason. That's why the game is played, as they say. That's why they play the game, because we don't know. It's a game. At the same time, you got to applaud Wesley, not just because he lost those 2 games, the way he lost, Tanya, for him to then keep his emotions, keep his focus. He's right back in it. And by the way, he gets the white pieces in the next game. This is not over.
And it wasn't just the win, it was the style of play as well by Wesley with black there, dominating that game 3. Let's take a look at our scoreline of the grand final here. Magnus winning the first 2 games in dominant fashion, and then Wesley does what looked like the impossible, strikes back in game 3 with black. He gets a game 4 again. in a must-win situation. We will be back with the critical game 4 in just a few.
The most elite bullet tournament returns. You don't want to miss the 4th ever Bullet Chess Championship featuring Magnus Carlsen for the first time. He'll join reigning champ Hikaru Nakamura, 2021 champion Alireza Firouzja, and more to fight for their share of the $100,000 prize fund. It all kicks off on July 17th at 9 a.m. Pacific. Use !BCC in chat for all the details.
Next Monday, July 17th, the Bullet Chess Championship begins, where 16th of the world's greatest speed chess players will contend for the Bullet Chess crown. Will Hikaru defend his reign? Will Firouzja block his path and take back the title he held just 2 years ago? And will Magnus' BCC debut shake up the field entirely? Submit your Bullet Chess Championship bracket now for a chance to win 6 months of Diamond membership. Use Comment Fantasy in the chat. Bracket submission close on July 17th when Game 1 of the BCC kicks off.
Want to improve your game? Click the link in the chess.com navigation bar to try Aimchess today and increase your rating 31% faster than standard tactics puzzles. When you sign up for Aimchess, our powerful AI breaks down your latest games and provides actionable insights to immediately improve your game. You will also receive personalized lessons created from your game history to help you learn from your mistakes and a custom-made study plan to help you reach your goals. Learn chess your way with Aimchess, your digital chess coach.
Unlock your potential with Aimchess lessons and targeted training. And you can get your first month off with the code CCT at go.chess.com/Aimchess. And right now, Wesley So has to unlock his potential to win that Game 4 to force an Armageddon. Magnus Carlsen needs a draw to win the whole thing. Big question, will Wesley So be able to do that? A question only he can answer. Meanwhile, Dani, you've been asking some fun questions to Oslo.
A lot of questions, and today we're getting into it. We've been excited for this day all week because we get to say and share some of the fun things we did on Saturday, and we had a chance to talk to some people passing by about what they thought Tanya and David did, because we wanted to know how recognizable they were as chess commentators, along with Magnus Carlsen, and here were some of the answers that we got.
Hey, sir. It's a beautiful day to ride a bike. Yes. I love your tattoo. It's gorgeous. Do you know who either one of these two are for 100 kron?
Probably actors.
Probably actors.
Yeah.
That is right. They are actors. What do they act, though?
Action, probably.
Action. That is right.
That's correct.
That is correct. You're
not messing with me.
I'm totally messing with you, but you're doing great. You're doing great. You're doing great.
I think they're a couple. I think so.
They're a couple. That's right. That's right. But where have you seen them? It was on a dating show. Which one?
Love Island.
Love Island. That is wrong. I can't give you two. It was Duolingo, love language. Okay. If you had to guess what they do, what do you think they do?
Style. Fashion.
Style and fashion?
Yeah.
That's true. In a way, yes, they are both Puma models.
Modeling?
Modeling?
Yes.
That is correct. They are both models.
Modern.
Model.
Yeah.
Okay, that's actually incorrect. They're chess players. I don't know why they would think that. Okay, if you name them, I'll give you 200 kron.
Nah, I don't know the names.
How are we going to work this out? You don't know their names.
Yeah.
Well, you want me to like you?
Yes.
You do? Okay, then I like you. For 200 kron, do you know who either of these two are? You said you watch
Chess commentators.
that's right.
Is it like a celebrity?
They're both celebrities. They're both very famous, but do you know why?
Judge the game?
They judge the game. That's right. There you go. You win.
Maybe chess?
How did you know that?
But sure.
She was right. I gave it away. All right, 200 krone. Do you know who they are?
Yes.
Yes, you do. Who are they?
Yeah, they're my friends.
They're your friends?
From back home.
I think we did it. Checkmate, Norway. Boom. We're out.
That was fun. I have to say, I was kind of flattered by some of the answers we got there, David.
You should be.
Action hero. That's my next role.
Action hero. It was great. Honestly, you should be. It was a lot of fun. And I think we actually had a few more people recognize them as chess commentators, but we had to get all the funny comments in. So they are very recognizable on the streets. Maybe not quite as recognizable as Magnus, but who is? So anyway, that was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. And David, there were people who recognized us as commentators as well. The Champions Chess Tour is big in Oslo.
Exactly. Actually, just last night, coming back after the show, I saw some guy looking at me for a few minutes, and he just kept making eye contact. After a while, he came over. He was like, "Look, I'm watching you right now." So yeah, it's everywhere. We love it.
Creepy.
No shout out.
I'm watching you.
We've been having a lot of fun in Oslo and with the action that we have in the grand final as well. Magnus Carlsen takes that 2-point lead. Wesley So striking back. The first loss by Magnus in the Aimchess Rapid. It hasn't happened before and Wesley So did it. But Magnus, he's GOAT. And David tells us why exactly.
Magnus Carlsen, the world #1, multiple-time world champion and winner of the previous 2 editions of the Champions Chess Tour. Magnus has played every opening under the sun. He even has a variation of the Sicilian named after him. So after e4, c5, Magnus started playing knight c3 a few years ago with the idea that he could open the center immediately by playing d4, actually going against conventional chess wisdom of developing the white queen very early. But the whole idea here is that after the queen gets kicked away, she's happy to step back. And for example, if black continues to develop normally, white just creates a fianchetto, gets the bishop to a nice diagonal, and later castles on the queen side. Actually a very aggressive opening, not technically part of Magnus's style. Magnus's real recipe for success is that he adopts his strategy according to the opponent. He's able to do anything with a very universal style, and if you get him in the endgame, there's no chance. He's perhaps the best endgame player of all time, and you can go and check out some of his ideas, some of his thoughts on the endgame in his chessball courses.
Magnus Carlsen, one of the greatest players of all times. And wow, we've got some of his highlights there. I don't think it's possible to put his profile if you had 10 slides coming up. But look at that. He is the reigning Champions Chess Tour champion, won the 2023 Air Things Masters, the first event on the tour. 5-time FIDE world champion, but 15 world championships, including the Rapid and Blitz championships there. Just amazing player all around. And he's got this universal style of play, Simon. And I know it's hard to understand, but where are his weaknesses, if any at all?
Well, there's not many. I mean, his stats speak for themselves, don't they, there? And his weaknesses, maybe we saw them in the last game, that he's sometimes a little bit confident, a little bit over-presses. So, I mean, he's really good at tactics. I mean, I could list everything he's good at, but maybe it's just been a bit overconfident at times, just on occasions that lets him down. So, taking risks, maybe.
Well, I think Magnus himself would say that in his older age, he's become a slightly less patient player. I think in his younger age, when he was really grinding toward those championships and winning all those titles, he described himself, as many others did, as a Karpovian kind of player, a boa constrictor. I think he gets a little more aggressive these days, and I think he can lose his patience a little bit. And we saw it in that game, and you hope, if you're a Magnus fan, it didn't open the door permanently for Wesley So, because we see that his stats, they're not quite Magnus stats, but they rival him.
Wow.
Magnus.
That's there, David.
Yeah, exactly. Magnus ahead in some of those categories, but overall accuracy, extremely close. Wesley's one of the few who can claim an accuracy level, that can match Magnus's.
The one thing that Wesley So did so well in that game 3 was create trouble for Magnus right out of the opening. Early on, getting Magnus in these messy waters, is that the key here, David, to try and get those complicated positions as early and quickly as possible?
Yep, that is the key. And Wesley, he's happy to repeat the English opening. In the previous white game, he did get some chances there. That was also messy, imbalanced. And as you say, Tanya, that's exactly what he needs to aim for. It's first Magnus who does switch things up. No reverse Sicilian. This time, black cannot play the move e5, and therefore Magnus is forced into a different opening. From here, we could still see transpositions to the Queen's Gambit, the Queen's Indian, a whole bunch of systems. And, okay, some mind games there, but it does look like it's surely going to transpose into the Queen's Gambit. Declined if Wesley picks up his d-pawn right now. But no, he plays a very flexible line of the Reti here. Yeah, it definitely feels like Wesley's trying to keep as much tension in the position, because that's what paid off in the previous battle, Simon.
Yeah, I like this move e3 actually, because he could have played the Queen's pawn forwards, played d4. One of the most well-known positions you'll get in chess, the main line Queen's Gambit. And Magnus knows those positions incredibly well, and they're kind of like quite hard. Whites find it hard to get an advantage in those positions, but this is a really flexible move. It's becoming a bit more trendy nowadays, and White keeps that tension. You can often get some very aggressive ideas. This move, the most testing move, White trying to push in the centre, and now we often get an exchange, and we can go into the Tarish variation. It is quite likely to see here, because black has kind of got the positional threat of pushing the pawn in the centre one square further forwards. And we saw this yesterday, didn't we? Wesley So had it with black as well in that game. Well, this time he's got the white pieces, but you've got to stop that black pawn coming as a square forwards generally here.
Yeah, you don't want the baloney.
You don't want the baloney,
the
load of baloney.
If black gets d4 and pushes that knight, and then the knight comes to c6, it's a baloney. I apologize for the inside chess joke, but I'm going to say I like the Tarash from Magnus as a structure to go for when you only need a draw, because there's a very good chance we're going to get a bunch of exchanges in the center. Often White's best way to deal with d4 coming is to play d4 here, which opens up the door for a whole bunch of pawns to be traded. So, and Wesley, in fact, has done it. So it doesn't mean that we are in dead drawn territory by any means. The position is equal, but at the same time, there's going to be a lot of exchanges in the center, and that should help the person who's looking to simplify matters.
But the fact that Wesley gets a game 4, that's already a huge achievement given the way the day started for him. And now with the white pieces, he needs to find his chances. Magnus Carlsen is such a competitive player. David, you're good friends with Magnus. Give us a little insight into his mindset. What's it like when he's just lost a game?
It's just win, win, win. That's all he can think about. Revenge, revenge, revenge. The titles. He gets motivated, and he's a perfectionist as well. Danny was playing sport with him this morning, and I think any mistake that anyone made, Magnus had a comment. So it's very much kind of.
I appreciated the coaching, for the record. I wasn't. I mean, I was learning paddle for the first time, and I know Magnus is a super competitive guy, so the fact that we found our stride and won some games feels good. But he definitely lets you know every mistake you make.
So who won? Yeah, that's what we got now.
Magnus and I won 2 out of 3 sets.
Not bad.
Against David and Asklid.
Yeah. Is Magnus a trash talker when he wins?
Oh. I don't know. These days it's more when he loses. Magnus, I mean, on the rare occasions. Then it gets, he's quite good at winning these days. He's more modest, and he's very graceful. He knows when players play well. Not that I played well in paddle, but like when his opponents play well in chess, he's great.
So he's not just competitive over the board. It's any sport.
Everything.
Translates. And I think it's true for all great sportsmen, right? Passion, the interest, and just the focus on winning. It shines through in anything they do. And meanwhile, a trade of pawns. And I was going to say, Magnus has experience in this position. I remember he beat me in a blitz game on chess.com here not that long ago. He beat Vincent Keimer, and I played this move. Magnus is going to push his c-pawn now to c4. There we go. I'm getting bad memories. If Magnus gets his bishop out to b4 now and trades off White's knight, he's got a fantastic score in this position. I'm surprised Wesley's going down this line.
Seems like you know this position, David. So you lost this position as White against Magnus, did you?
Against Magnus. I think it was on chess.com a few months ago. He just crushed me there.
Yeah, there's a danger here, isn't there, just with the pawn structure. I mean, black's got the better pawn structure now, because that majority of the queen side can be really dangerous when they start moving down the board. So is it one of those positions where White needs to do something quite quickly, like move the knight into the middle, try to break? Because if White plays too slowly, he can actually become worse here. Is that potential aim?
Yeah, I'll just show Magnus's recipe for success here. You're talking about dropping the knight in the center. That's very logical. And actually, I think that's how our game went. And basically what happened is that Magnus simply took on this square. Let's show a few moves. I think he captured at this moment. It might have been in a few turns' time, but what he did was simply trade off this knight on e5, and even though these pieces disappeared, he was happy to just land his bishop on f5, controlling the open file, stopping white's rook from accessing b1, and the bishop always comes in, the rook always seems to get hold of the b file, and you know what happens next, Simon?
Yeah.
Harry starts marching down the board.
I think he beat Jordan van Foreest in the last Champions Tour with this exact position you might have here. I don't know if it was Jordan, but he won a very important game there. So he's got a lot of experience in this, which Wesley must know about, right? He must know that this is something Magnus does on a regular basis. So I would have thought he knows, because it's preparation.
So I like what Wesley's done. He's prevented bishop takes c3 on black's terms, where white would have to capture back with the b pawn, and that structure we showed does certainly favour black. But yeah, meanwhile, I still like Magnus's chances very quickly.
White ever want to play f4 instead of taking on c6? Is the risk that the knight on f6 will move, and then when f6 comes, the e3 pawn is just too weak, so it's just a positional disaster to commit?
Yeah, possibly. If you could somehow maintain the knight on c3, I have a feeling that black's also going to just dominate the e4 square.
Okay.
And yeah, this bishop unfortunately will be left as a bad one in this pawn chain.
Inevitably, too, the whole point is that black will at some point be able to kick that knight from e5, and that e3 pawn will be spied on that open file. So f4 is a move that you often wish you could take back in some of these structures. In fact, you'd almost rather play for f3 and e4 if you can get away with that, even though it's slow. So this is, yeah, it's interesting, because everything about this structure, Simon highlighted it well. If we want to highlight the three queenside pawns, a6, b7, c4, if you just split the board in half, black is basically just winning positionally, right? You've just won with that sort of, it's a pan-off, bot-Vinet kind of reverse structure. And unless white can get e4 and or undermine the d5 pawn in a really powerful way, because if the d5 pawn falls, then the whole thing might collapse. If you can't break through with e4 or the d5 pawn, black is in a positionally just a very boa constrictor style position, similar to Magnus's style. So, yeah,
How would you define Wesley's style?
Oh man, how would I define Wesley's style?
In the animal world.
Accurate.
I would use words like technical. I would use words like accurate. I would say also not necessarily someone who plays slowly, but he's defensive minded, and that he's very forward thinking about stopping his opponent's threats. And I think when you combine that with also being a very accurate calculator, he doesn't miss his opportunities, and he doesn't give you many. So that's the thing. And so he's ruthless when he converts, and he usually doesn't beat himself. Again, a guy like Magnus finds ways to win against everybody. That's why he has a plus record against, I think, maybe every human being he's ever played. But overall, Wesley is actually a tough opponent for Magnus in a lot of ways. Wait, you have a plus record against Magnus?
I do, yeah.
Really?
Well, it's like what you said yesterday. He said you've got to beat them when they're young.
Yeah.
And I basically beat him when he can put his head above the table. So,
I didn't know that.
He was. I think he was like 25-80 when I played him. Galsdal in sometimes. So, yeah, and luckily I've never played him again since then. So I got the one lucky game. But he was very young.
Amazing.
So, a little kid. Still a very good little kid, but he wasn't hardly as strong as he is now. But still, I got a plus score. That's all that counts.
I was obviously kind of saying it in jest. There's probably a few other people out there who have a plus score against Magnus, but that's phenomenal. I'm sitting next to a legend right here.
That's you should know that by now, Danny. You know. I mean, I think winning one game when he's a baby doesn't really count, but it's still nice to have.
25-80. That's not a baby. That's still a monster on the board.
Well, with Magnus, he actually was born 25-80. That's a fun thing about Magnus's history.
That's it. He came out.
He came out of the womb plus 2,500.
Yeah, definitely.
One more player comes to my mind who might have a plus score against him in classical. I think Nodirbek Abdusattorov.
Okay.
Because I think they've only played once in Tata Steel earlier this year in Vaikanzer, and Abdusattorov won that game.
Yeah, you're in a very elite club there, Simon. And I've got to say, go check out that game, everyone. He pushed Harry the H pawn. It was beautiful. Beautiful win. He's too modest to say it.
No, but, it was a long time ago, but it was it's obviously nice to have that. But you just got to beat them when they're young. This is the key. And it's like all these Indian players, just try to beat them when they're like still babies, because you won't get any chance later on in their career.
And by the way, we've had a big transition here. We had en passant, which for the chat, they love that. The en passant lives in chat. But if we want to back up real quick, David, just to show that, Wesley was not going to let Magnus get a bind on the queen side, so he struck with b4, which pretty much forces en passant because you don't want that structure to let white get going. But now, Magnus after the exchange already goes for the king side. Harry is
he's coming.
He's getting involved. Harry's coming.
Love it. I mean, this is the way to do it, right, David? Throw the pawn.
Yeah, the signal is that the white king has no knights around, no great defenders, so this pawn is going to act as a battering ram, might even just sit on the h3 square, and white's king side is going to be vulnerable long term. Yeah, this one heating up.
Heating up sounds like a race with Magnus heading for Wesley's king, but Wesley's got weaknesses of Magnus to attack on the queen side there. Who gets there first? Wesley in a must-win situation, and of course, there is a big battle on in Division 2 as well, with Danlas and Sam fighting for that top spot. And we're checking in with Ketty, who's got an update for us.
That's right, Tanya. We do have the final game started. Armageddon just started. Semyon wins the bidding with 10 seconds only. So he beat 9 minutes and 49 seconds. Lazovic beat 9 minutes and 59 seconds. So that means that Lazovic is now with white pieces in must-win situation, when Serbia needs just win or a draw to win the second division and to get the seat in the first division. And Tanya, also, we have a news. Big winner in the Division 3, Yu Yangyi, grandmaster from China. He convincingly wins the tournament and $5,000 USA dollars.
Wow, congratulations to Yu Yangyi there. Ketty, I've got to ask you, that big Armageddon coming up with so much on the line for these players. Denislas winning the bid with 10 seconds. How much of a psychological win is that for him?
Right. Well, he was yesterday the one who won the bid. Today, he lost the bid. So I think it's a little bit pressure on him. I saw him also not leaving the chair while they had break. So I think he was just preparing for the game. It's a lot of tension on the in this board. I can see that, and I can feel that also on the game.
It is going to be a big fight in the Armageddon. Ketty, do you have any predictions of who might win Division 2?
I have no idea, Tanya. I usually like the black side in Armageddon, so I would just say maybe Soviet has a good chances. But we have Denis Lazovic, who had such an incredible game, and it's so good to see so young player playing in the first division for the first time ever in the Champions Chess Tour.
That's awesome. It's such a big fight between these two prodigies. And Ketty, thank you for that. We will check in with you on what happened in this big Armageddon and who books his spot into Division 1 of the next Champions Chess Tour event. Meanwhile, big action here. Harry, the H-pawn, has arrived.
All the way to H3. Harry's gone full Alpha Zero. You go full Alpha Zero all the way on H3 means that you have these long-term mating net chances, and the white king will never be safe again after you establish a thorn like that. So anyway, but Magnus also still seems to be playing in a bit of his comfort zone, right? He doesn't have time like he did in game 1, where he had more time than he started with. But he's got a lot of time here, David, and I don't know what you know about how comfortable he is here. You shared that you've lost positions like this on the white side to him, but feels like he really has a good sense and an understanding for the structure.
Yeah, exactly. I think we can also cut the board in half, as you did earlier, Danny. And this time, white has the advantage on the queen side because black has a backward pawn on d6. So that's the only thing I think might make Magnus uncomfortable. He doesn't like having these long-term structural deficiencies in his positions. But he does have a clear target, the white king, and he has totally immobilized now white's light squared bishop in the corner. We've been talking about that piece a lot in the dragon setups, in the Catalan opening we talked about from earlier. But that white light squared bishop on h1, it's the only defender, but it can never move. So despite Wesley maybe having the advantage on the queen side, his pieces might be caught on the wrong side of the board later. I still see Magnus being extremely happy with his chances.
Yeah, I mean, it's always easier to attack your opponent's king than to attack the queen side. It's as simple as that, and it's always more fun because if you land your attack on the king side, you checkmate, right? If you land your attack on the queen side, you might win a pawn or two, but it's not the end of the world. I suppose the hope is, though, that Wesley can just defend and get this pressure on the queen side, before Magnus lands a big blow. Magnus's plan, I think, is quite simple, though, right? He just wants to exchange off at some point the light square bishops and put his queen on g2 checkmate. It's the kind of plan I
You're
like.
just so biased toward checkmate attacks. You just described like a positional queenside attack like it's like not a good idea because you just always want to checkmate.
Well, yeah, that's isn't that right? You know, but isn't it more fun to attack on the king side?
I mean, yeah, it is more fun to attack on the king side, but you also have to be able to attack positionally. And we should highlight that the c6 pawn is a massive positional weakness because I think that it actually will end up proving Simon's point in the end. But I'm looking at this line where like we play like knight a4. This is the most logical thing to do for white in these positions, and I assume we get a trade on d2. And the point is, I think black's plan here is rather than try to defend the weakness passively and allow white to start to get surgical over there because the queen comes to b4, the knight comes to c5, instead you just go all in for this, like knight e4, right? And you try to get an exchange of the bishop for the knight and sacrifice the pawn, and then you're going to bring the queen out and try to checkmate on the light squares, you know?
Well, that's what I was showing, Danny, yeah?
Maybe. David's showing it. But yeah, no, exactly. So I think that this is... But again, with best play, this may not work. So my point is I'm both validating your feelings, which is what a good partner does. I'm validating you, but also sharing how I feel about the position too. Okay, which is that white also has a positional attack on the queen side. Can you validate back?
Yeah. White's doing very well on the queen side. Some good pressure there. I see the c6 pawn has gone. But checkmate ends the game, Danny.
Checkmate does end the game.
It does. It's rule number one. Checkmate ends the game. No, I am always biased with a kingside attack. It's a weakness of what I got. A very interesting move on the board, but it just I mean you've got to go for the c6 pawn. It's going to be a bit of a race, right? I mean if white does land on the queen side, as Danny was saying, it's very possible. Then white could be doing extremely well here. Race. It's just a race, right?
Yeah, pure race. And interesting move for Wesley. In terms of a race, it doesn't look like having a knight back on its start square on b1 is going to help at all. Obviously, the idea is to recapture on the d2 square with the knight, bring the white knight slightly closer to the white king. But Magnus says, no, okay, this time, no trade for you. You can take a pawn, but I think this is just going to accelerate black's attack. I'm not sure exactly how to do this, but for example, the rook can start coming. The knight's going to land into the center next move. Suddenly these pieces, I'm looking at them, they're fast asleep, and I don't think white's got the defensive resources here.
Fisher random striking again for Wesley So. He loves putting his pieces on awkward squares, so anyway, it might backfire here.
He plays bishop b4, but already that idea you mentioned, Danny, is coming in, and yeah, I fear for white. His whole idea, Wesley, here is to bring his knight closer, but I'm not sure he's quick enough. Big moves ahead, Magnus up on the clock.
The pressure is on, and Magnus with the black pieces going for Wesley's king. And also in these rapid formats, it's just so difficult to defend these kind of positions with white. Wesley under 6 minutes right now. He hasn't taken the c6 pawn, as you were pointing out. It was too dangerous. Instead, he moves the bishop, vacating some squares for the knight to come into defense. How difficult is this going to be for Wesley when it goes down to seconds, handling this attack on the king side?
I think that's a great point. The aggression against someone's king is even more effective in fast time controls. As much as I'm just proving your point over here. But yeah, no, playing an aggressive position, defending against an aggressive attack is even harder when you don't have a lot of time on the clock. So, by the way, and bishop b4 makes it even harder to take c6 because now rook c8 is devastating because that rook on c1 isn't defended. So this is... The eval is starting to like Magnus's position more. The clock says that we like his position, so I don't see what the best move is here for black. I'm trying to figure it out. Maybe it is just knight e4 like we've been kind of shooting for. But
yeah, I think knight e4 looks very natural. I would also make an argument maybe for that rook lift, just bringing black's rook to e6, just defending the c6 pawn. But yeah, I've been looking at some cool tactics here, and I think Wesley's in big trouble if Magnus does land his knight on e4. I don't think Wesley's in time then to bring his knight in. Magnus is calculating.
Is that his calculating pose, David?
That says he's also nursing an injury from paddle. He's got his hand on the right shoulder. He's just kind of holding on to it from this morning.
It's a body language thing. It's comforting. He's comforting himself. He's regulating.
He goes
He's trying to steal my job, David. the body expert over here.
Okay, but he goes knight e4. Is there we got to start showing some of this because the moves on the board are critical for the story that's taking place here, because Magnus is either about to launch a devastating attack on the light squares or Wesley's going to find a brilliant defense. And why is f3 just not possible here? It forks the bishop and knight.
Yeah.
So we should show it.
A double attack. And I think, well, you can't save both pieces. One of them will drop. So I think you have to counterattack here. For example, let's threaten
very nice.
to come in with the black queen. And it's not easy to defend this pawn, actually. I'm not sure how to defend it.
But if I play like queen d3, I'm just trying to make a move that then makes you deal with the fork. Now it's like knight g3 and rook e3.
Ooh, nice
I guess.
spot, Danny.
Okay, yeah, that looks like it.
Problem is, this bishop, as soon as it gives a check, it's going to be deadly. And suddenly the position is falling apart. You're giving up a piece for a few pawns, but white's king lacking defenders. And this one we can calculate further. It's probably what the players are looking at, this type of thing. And yeah, f3 is the critical move. I was going to say as well, you cannot play the move knight to d2 to trade off this beast, because suddenly another sacrifice, I think.
Wow.
And here, for example, is there simply a check maybe?
Lovely.
I mean, this just looks deadly. Like, I have a feeling there's going to be some tactics on this square. Although, wow.
Big decision.
Big decision. He's not gone for this. This is dangerous for black. The evaluation bar says is winning, although complicated. Instead, Wesley decided, let's backpedal. Bishop takes knight instead, giving up that beautiful bishop. We've been talking about it a lot today, but he's hoping that black cannot break through on the light squares. Problem is, are you going to be able to stop this idea forever? For now, white's knight holding that square feels really flimsy to me.
I think you're highlighting the right point, is that now your light square problems are forever. Right? When you give up the light square bishop, that pawn on h3, that bishop on g4, those squares, g2 and f3, they're not going anywhere. Grab a Snickers. We're going to be here for a while.
It's very hard for white to get counterplay now, I think. I mean, because that knight really wants to do something on the queen side. I don't think you can really move your dark square bishop because of bishop a5. You know, if black can swap off his dark square bishop for that defender,
love it.
It's going to be horrible. So what can white actually do? So it's not just what black can do. White is actually struggling to find a plan here after, you know, some queen f6 move like that, you know, and I guess black can build up somehow. I'm not sure how, but you can get all your pieces in the right area, and it just looks like something will give at some point.
And for Wesley, his only hope is trying to get those pawns on the queen side, the c6 weakness and the a6 weakness. This last move by Wesley also hints at a potential queen coming to the defense of the light square by falling back next to that king. But right now, everything guarded. Magnus cannot penetrate with that queen into those light squares, which is absolutely key in the position. But he needs only a draw here to win the match.
Yeah.
And he's the one who's pushing. That's big pressure on Wesley with 3 minutes on the clock.
It's a great point. I feel like I almost forgot, because Wesley won a game, that Magnus is still in half a point territory to win the whole thing. Because you're right that it kind of adds to the point that black can almost sit on this position, right? Because the white knight can't move, or we're going to lose on the light squares. It's hard to get more pressure against that c6 pawn. The one other trump card is that the queen on f1 can both defend and spy a6, so that's helpful, right? There's some chances there, but yeah, this looks really, really tough for Wesley. How can he create chances before he runs out of time?
And remember,
on the clock?
I mean, we've been talking about checkmate. Wesley needs to win this. So even if Magnus just sits, and even if there is no breakthrough for black, it's hard to imagine any way to do anything, as you said, Simon. He's called up and prevent a checkmate, but that's the very maximum.
I think if anyone can improve their position, it's going to be black here. I mean, black can sneak that light square bishop into d3, improve the rooks, just keep the pressure on white's position. What can white do? I'm just struggling to find a plan for white. I mean, does white have to push his kingside pawns? No, I can't do that. I can't see anything at all that white can do here. Let's say I go king h8, king g8 forever. Let's just say I have, I literally just play that forever. What are you going to do? That'd be a very funny way of just asking your opponent.
There is like rook c2 to double rooks, although even if I double rooks, I don't know what I'm doing. You're already guarding the pawn.
It might be time to start looking at Wesley wanting to push that a pawn ahead. You get Harry the h pawn moving. Maybe Wesley goes with Harry the a pawn.
Maybe Harry, because that does stop this bishop a5 idea, and you can use your dark square bishop. That is a good plan. Yeah. Definitely. Well spotted there, Tanya. And I think this is one of the only things I can see. So I think you've got to stop the black bishop having the opportunity to come there in the position. I mean, as black here, I'd be very tempted to put my bishop on g5 and just sack it on e3 at some point. Something like this must give eventually, I feel.
Always looking for checkmate, Simon.
It's
even if it takes 20 moves. That's the plan.
How you win at chess, isn't it? That's what I've thought.
But Magnus there, going into a bit of a think, I think it's the same thing. He knows he's set up this beautiful position. Everything looks stunning right now. Right pieces at the right place. But what's next?
Yeah.
And he's also trying to find that finishing blow, Simon. And it's not that easy to really spot. How do you improve from here?
Right. Does he win the NFT as well for winning this?
Who?
Magnus, or is it? Just wondering. Yeah.
Are you jealous, Simon?
Yeah, the position's very interesting. And I don't have any NFTs. Too complicated for me.
But Simon, you will be jealous to know that the fan who gets the NFT also gets a VIP ticket to Toronto.
Very jealous of that. Extremely jealous. I'd love to be there in Toronto. And actually, maybe I should start collecting these things. He's gone back with the rook. Why has he gone back?
Well, I think I want to share this line because out of curiosity and frustration, I did the rare thing. I did actually turn on the lines, not just the eval bar, to see, because I wanted to see what could Wesley do. And if we want to go back to that position, David, it actually proves the point with rook e8. This shows how tough White's position is, because the engine's best line here is black plays like queen g5, and White plays bishop c5, and then black plays bishop a5, and White plays bishop b4, and black can play bishop at b6. And White has to play, like the engine is suggesting that White try to go for a draw, right? Yeah. And then it says here, like if Black wants to play on, it can play bishop to d8, right? There's also queen h5 ideas it suggests, which is really nice to show because you're going to e2 to kick the queen and some mating net ideas. But the point is, the engine's best line here was to hope that White could like repeat, which isn't even an option for Wesley. So if we go back to the live game after rook e8, okay, Magnus goes for a plan where he does have an idea. I think he wants to play a5 at some point and kick that bishop, maybe even a5 and a4, right, to create a new line in. He's playing principle of two weaknesses in the middle game, right, using the queen side and the light squares. But it just shows you, look, Wesley played bishop c5. What do you do on bishop a5 besides go back to b4?
Yeah, and then if Magnus repeats, Wesley can't repeat.
So I think it was instructive, yeah.
He's got to find another plan. And it's some amazing full board awareness there by Magnus when he transferred that rook from e6 to the other side of the board.
Yeah, I totally agree. And by the way, I don't think we're going to see anything but bishop b4 here by Wesley. And it's kind of funny. I pulled up that engine line because we're probably going to see it. I think Wesley's going to play bishop b4. And Magnus is going to go back to, yep, here it is. Magnus is going to go back to b6. And Wesley's going to look himself in the mirror and be like, do I want to play on or am I taking a draw because I'm worse?
He has to play on.
I mean, even if he's going to lose, you might as well lose, right? But you might as well go down in a flame of glory than just a wet puddle. I don't know. A wet puddle, I said.
Is that like, because you cry yourself? What was that? Like you cry yourself?
Just like, a bit wet, like are you
peeing yourself? Like, can I say that? I mean, why are you sitting in a wet puddle? I don't get it.
I don't know, just thinking wet puddles, I don't know, wet puddles. Like the wet handshake, you must get this. When you play a game of chess, it's nice to get a firm handshake before the game, but if someone goes like that, that's a wet handshake. Do you know what it is? It's wet, It's like, give me a proper handshake. Don't give me the wet fish. Like, what is that? Should we go back to the game? Yeah.
It's a great time to go back to the game because we were talking about how is Wesley not going to repeat, but Magnus is the one who refuses the repetition and actually falls back with the bishop.
Yeah, really principled. He's opened up the B file for the black rook. A5 is coming. If all the rooks disappear, White has close to 0 winning chances there as well. So, yeah, multiple choices here for Magnus. Of course, if Wesley brings his bishop back, then we'll see that repetition, that dance of bishops and a draw. But, OK, he has to drop it back to a really ugly passive square instead, just to prevent black start square bishop from getting active. And I think Magnus is kind of bullying Wesley in a way. He's saying, OK, I know your best moves are just to repeat. You have to play worse moves. You're only going to help me in your quest to try and win this one. Yeah, just...
But it is impressive because he could have played bishop b6 and made Wesley make a move that also would have been bad. But like you said, it was principled. He believed in his idea of relocating the rook to the b file, and he's gonna show it, right? And he obviously knew Wesley wouldn't repeat, so he's like, I'm not even gonna play these games. I believe in my plan. Let's go. Now you're gonna get under a minute.
Yeah, and reaching that 1 minute mark. Meanwhile, looking at Magnus, is he heading towards the teapot situation?
Wow,
Simon.
look at that.
the teapot, the wet puddle, it's all coming out today. Yeah, I mean, it's... OK, here we go. This is where it could get interesting. So I think Wesley has to try something like this, which is going to create some weaknesses, but you need to plug those light squares as well. And the question is now, if the bishop attacks White's rook, can White try to get his queen in? I think that's what he's trying to do. And that's why Magnus moved that pawn, because he didn't want to lose that pawn. And only active thing I can see. Or is it G4? You're going to grab Harry?
Wow.
Poor old Harry? I mean, I don't know if I believe that either, but, you've got to try something. You've got to try to complicate this position. And they're both getting lower time. It's going to, this is getting very critical. Magnus can still make mistakes, right? It's still a very tense situation here.
Yeah, we see the eval bar and we see that black is doing great, but anything could still happen here.
And I just want to point out, David, with that last move, white has created more weaknesses on the king side. So now you say A, you got to see B. And when I say B, I mean you have to go E4. Otherwise, there was this threat of the queen falling back with a potential double attack on E3 and A3. And you might end up losing one of the two pawns if you get greedy. So he does go with E4, but that's playing with fire because you strike in the center when your king isn't that safe.
Yeah, the more the position becomes open, now you start looking at that dark square diagonal from G1 to A7. So there's new ways, not just the light squares. Magnus calmly retreats the bishop to E6. And you just say, come on, keep pushing your pawns and opening up new ways for me to get at your king. And Wesley's going to oblige because he doesn't have anything else to do. But yeah, we're liking black's chances.
Yeah, Tanya, I think your move might happen on the board, and suddenly black switches focus to the queen side. There we go, Magnus plays it, and yeah, this pawn push has gained Wesley space, but you don't want space here. It's just left those loose squares behind. An ugly move. Rook to A1, ceding the B file, and this is really, wow, inviting a break as well. Magnus is opening things for those bishops.
How incredible has it been that Magnus starts with his kingside attack, putting all his forces on the king side, and then suddenly switches to the other side of the board, and Wesley sort of trying to now fight the downfall on the queen side.
Me and Simon are playing together now. We did the king side attack, and now we're doing the queen side. We're the same, me and you.
We're moving over now.
We're doing it. We're doing it together, man.
I did think it would be checkmate by now, I have to say.
But it's okay if we win my position away. We went for the attack, and now positionally we got a protected pass pawn on the. Everything's going to work out.
It looks good. Yeah, it works for both of us. We're both happy.
For both of us. We're both happy.
Perfect day. And it still looks great for Magnus with that pawn, but it's still not clear. Still not 100% clear, and they're both now in time trouble. They're under a minute. You can blunder. You can blunder in this scenario.
I love that move, though, because he's prying. Again, now he's back to the king side. He's playing on both sides of the board here, right? He's going to force open the diagonal. I love black's position. I think Wesley's a move away from blundering. A3 is also under the gaze of the queen.
Ben Feingold would not approve, but F6 that time did look very strong. It's opened things up, and wow, Magnus is forcing the queens off. Not what we expected, but looks like just a good way to cement the advantage. Black's central pawns are both pass pawns, and once the queen disappears for white, the black rook has got full access on the B file. Also, look at that white king. This is the Alpha Zero style. It's not even to checkmate putting the black pawn on H3.
Yep.
It's in order to make sure in any endgames you paralyze the opponent's king. Really nice move.
Magnus put his head in hand and kind of shook, but I'm not sure why, because now Wesley's by 5 seconds. It looks great.
Has to make a move. He trades the queens. At least not getting checkmated now. Wow.
I mean, maybe not. The pawn on H3, though, is still pretty dangerous. So,
and the central pawns. Let's not forget them. Once they start moving, and there it is.
Yeah, the pawns are rolling, and white's knight can take one of those pawns, but you walk into a pin. This looks deadly. Black's rooks now are going to line up. Black's central pawn's going to harass this white rook. I think black is just about to win a piece. This could be the last few moves of the Aimchess Rapid.
And he wins a piece. The pawn on D3 is going to queen.
Got back right
the checkmating, it's on the board, Simon.
Oh, there we go.
Oh my God, and we have a winner. Magnus Carlsen checkmates Wesley So and wins the Aimchess Rapid.
Oof, that will happen
fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh.
And Magnus Carlsen there with the celebration. What a finish that was. And what a performance today by Magnus in the grand final.
Yeah, that game 3 was interesting because he overcommitted, got a little impatient for his own good, and gave Wesley a little bit of hope. But ultimately, when it mattered most, Magnus not only won, he won on the board with checkmate, which we don't see every day. Shout out to both players for playing it out to mate. Good sportsmanship. And here's the final moment.
Yeah, I think that was the second time Wesley allowed Magnus to checkmate him today. So, and it's always nice to see the celebration there. Good stuff.
He doesn't get the job done in 3, but he got it done without an Armageddon. And Magnus Carlsen continues his incredible form over the last few weeks by winning his second title of the Champions Chess Tour season. He won the Athens Masters and now the Aimchess Rapid.
And David, you made the point that he actually just made a whole lot of top chess players happy with that win, because now tour points matter more than ever, which means everyone wants to play every event from here on out because another spot just opened up, given that he's won 2 events.
Yeah, important stuff, and that's why we will check in on Division 2 and Division 3. But yeah, what a masterclass from Magnus that last game. It feels like he really upped his level. He was given a helping hand in the opening. It feels like, again, he was better prepared than Wesley So. He knew all the ins and outs, but the killer instinct to finish that one off was majestic.
Yeah, what was the moment for you, David?
For me, it was that queen trade from Magnus. He learned from game 3 where he actually had a fleeting opportunity to trade queens and go into a winning endgame. But this time, Magnus did not miss that opportunity. In this position, white's queen is by far the best piece, the only active piece. And Magnus traded that one off. Queen to a7. The queens have to stay on the board. They have to leave the board, because if, for example, Wesley dodges, then black's queen will simply swoop in. But instead, after the queen trade happened, let's just check out the winning moves. D4 was the clincher. These pawns are simply too strong. They're rolling. They did cost Wesley a piece here, walking into this nasty pin on the c-file. And to show the final checkmate of this tournament, after the rook takes knight, a trade, and it was all about the back rank. Simply this move, the killer, coming down and trapping this white king in the corner. Beautiful. All coming together, all those tactics.
Just incredible full board awareness there by Magnus throughout the game, start to finish in this game 4. And we are being joined by the champion of Aimchess Rapid, Magnus. Firstly, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, you just won your second event of the season, Magnus. Not just the scoreline, but how pleased are you with the quality of your play?
I don't think it was great today, but yeah, overall it was okay. But I think probably the results were a bit better than my play overall.
Magnus, not a single match of yours in this entire Aimchess Rapid went into the Armageddon. And starting from your phenomenal run in Zagreb, do you feel that you're playing some of the best speed chess right now?
Not particularly, no.
Well, Magnus, let me ask and jump in. And the game can be one of momentum at times, right? You maybe were struggling a little bit, Norway Chess June. You found some momentum in Zagreb that seems to have carried over. But then you lost game 3, which is the only game you lost the entire event. What was your mindset going into game 4? Was there a focus to just dial in? Were you a little nervous about having handed some momentum to Wesley?
Well, I was a little bit worried at some point in game 3 because he started playing really well, and he just outplayed me completely. But I thought his conversion was really shaky in that game as well. So I thought, yeah, I just played a pretty poor game, but I realized that he didn't play so well either. So that gave me a good feeling before the 4th game, I thought. Yeah, as long as I play normally, then I should be fine. And I think this is an opening that I've gotten a few times actually in these situations. And yeah, I don't know why people keep going for this line as white, because it's just it just feels easier for black to play. And I don't think in the last game that he was ever close to anything.
David, you want to explain why people keep going for that line?
Yeah, I had mentioned during the broadcast, Magnus, that you beat me in this line in Blitz once on chess.com. So yeah, as soon as I saw the opening, it looked like one-way traffic. Yeah, and
I think that was the thing about the 3rd game, that it was really complex strategically, whereas in this in this line, it's really easy for black to play. You just push on the king side, and you always have good counterplay. So it suited me for sure to get it in a position that was easy to play.
My apologies there. I wanted to ask one more question, chess specific, because we were talking a lot in game 1. You were way up on the clock, had way more time than you started with, and you almost seemed to be making a point in terms of how quickly you were blitzing out those moves. I made a note, so I have to ask, how much of that was prep that maybe didn't get used in 2021 in Dubai, or is it just that you have a lot of deep lines known in those Catalan positions?
I think Dubov has played this line before, at least in some game, as far as I can remember. Yeah, it's like it was pretty deep down there somewhere. I mean, it's not a very good line, and to be honest, like the way. But the point is, the way that he plays it actually makes a lot of sense. And I knew the position till knight f4, but then white's already better. And I mean, I messed it up later when I started thinking, of course. But that's as good a position as you can really hope for to get in any opening these days.
And well done today, Magnus. A bit of a tricky question, but I'm going to ask you, do you think you'll ever try to be classical world chess champion again?
With the current length of the games, no, I don't think so.
Okay.
And Magnus, earlier in the studio today, we also heard that you got some paddle in with Danny. And do you enjoy that? How was it? Did you have fun?
Yeah, I had fun. Danny was a quick learner, and also I got some extra exercise because I had to run and get all the the balls that he was he was not getting because he's new to the game. It made sense, but I thought he made great progress, and it was a good fight.
I appreciate that. And Magnus is a good coach, actually. A lot of good tips. And he's being modest because he covered every ball because I was totally out of position, and Magnus is a good paddle player. Magnus, I only got one more question because you're also a good bullet player. And the next thing on our calendar is the Bullet Chess Championship. That's an event that's got Firouzja and Hikaru in it. Are you excited for that one?
It's all right. I think if I was playing from home, I would have a decent chance, but I'm playing away, and I was testing out playing Bullet from my laptop when I was in Croatia, and I was incredibly slow. So I don't think I have a chance to win, but it will be fun, of course, nevertheless.
We're so looking forward to that one. And Magnus, before we let you go, it's been a couple of busy weeks, and after the Zagreb win, after your title Tuesday 11 out of 11, and now this Aimchess Rapid win, how do you plan to celebrate?
I don't know. I mean, to be honest, I didn't really feel the energy today, but I'm happy to finish on a high note after basically almost 4 weeks of a lot of chess. So there will be a celebration for sure.
All right, enjoy yourself, and a big congratulations.
Thank you.
Magnus Carlsen wins the Aimchess Rapid in great style. And we also have joining us the runners-up, Wesley So here. Wesley, I'm firstly going to say congratulations on finishing second. How are you feeling right now?
Well, devastated. Well, first of all, hello, Tanya. It's good to see you guys again, and thanks for having me. I was hoping to put up a better fight today, but it wasn't meant to be. I don't know. Either I played really badly or he just played really strongly. But I suspect Magnus is in really good form right now. I think today was my best day, but yeah, it was, the games weren't very good. But I was very impressed by the way he played the last game, particularly.
Wesley, he has been in great form, but you managed to strike back in that game 3 in a very difficult position, losing the first 2 games, and then you found the best in you. How did you feel about that game 3 and your chances going into that final game?
Well, I'm very happy to at least get the game, to win a game. The problem is in a match, when you lose one game, it's very difficult to come back. So game 1 was really critical. I shouldn't have spent that much time in the opening. I got some saving chances in the end, but I blundered and it wasn't enough. I think, losing the first game was a big blow. And then the second game, I got too ambitious. I just totally underestimated knight d7, grabbing the exchange. But obviously, when you lose the first two games, then the match is pretty much over. So yeah, I was hoping for a bit more today.
And Wesley, we were cheering for you as you made that comeback. We were hoping for more chess today, but you mentioned you were devastated. Yeah, you mentioned you were devastated. What do you make of your chances now of getting to the grand final in Toronto?
Well, I actually don't know the standings because I'm missing at least half of the tournaments. I think I'm missing 3 out of 6. So I don't know the current standings. But I don't even know the rules, to be honest. I just know 8 players qualify, right? We can ask Danny. I mean,
when you asked Danny, I asked my team. I just said, hey, can we get updated tour standings in real time? Because I know Wesley's going to ask me. Guess what you just did? So anyway, here we go. Look how fast the team is. Look at that. So look at you, Wesley. After this week's performance, you're in pretty good shape because 3 of those 4 guys in front of you already have tickets. And so good news, Wesley. If the tour were to end today, you would be dancing in Toronto. And I saw you in Toronto dancing last year. We had a good time and you celebrated your birthday. It was great.
Yeah, for sure. Toronto was one of my most favorite tournaments ever. Great hotel, great food, great people, meeting all the chess.com staff, miss you guys there. And also one of my best performances ever. So the thing is, I'll be able to play the next event. And then after that, I believe there's, is it 2 more or 1 more after the next event?
1 more before Toronto.
1 more. Yeah, so I'll miss the event after the next one. So, hopefully my points are enough. I think I'm in pretty decent shape because you got the 3 winners, as you said, and then we always got new people coming in, so it will dilute things a little bit. And it's a top 8, right, that qualifies to Toronto.
Yes.
Yeah, so I definitely want to go back there. Hopefully I can play better in the next tournament. Or not better. I mean, second is very good for me, but hope play better than today.
And with Magnus winning his second event, it actually means 3 players will qualify from the tour standings. And Wesley right now looking good there. But Wesley, tell us, it started shaky for you, this Aimchess Rapid, but you were amazing after that, winning match after match. Did you enjoy the Aimchess Rapid overall?
Yeah, for sure. I love playing in these events. I think I'm very grateful to the organizers and the sponsors for having this. Also, I think the format kind of suits me a little bit. It's a match format and it's a rapid time control, not too fast, not too slow. So I think it kind of suits my style. And I think after my loss in the first game, I just decided to play more relaxed, just start to play freely, start to play some simple, good chess. Obviously, it didn't work today, but yesterday it worked well. And, I've been playing chess.com events since 2012, basically. So I've been doing a lot of practice online, have a good mouse. So I have quite a bit of experience online. And I especially miss playing the Rapid Chess Championship event that we had last year, where you play every weekend, basically. But yeah, I think, maybe chess has become much more different than it was a few years ago. But also, I want to say a big congratulations to Magnus Carlsen, of course. And that's a given. I don't think it's necessary to congratulate Magnus anymore these days, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see how he does. And, he's an amazing player. Just really unfortunate I wasn't able to put up a good fight today. I was hoping for more chess, at least get to an Armageddon. So.
Oh, Wesley, it was awesome to watch you play in the Aimchess Rapid. And we look forward to seeing you in the next Champions Chess Tour event. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Thank you, guys.
Bye, Wesley.
Wesley So finishes runners-up in the Aimchess Rapid. Magnus Carlsen is the winner, and it was a dominating performance by Magnus.
Overall, start to finish, as they say, wire to wire, he led all the way. What are all the different sports cliche ways you say that someone was the dominant and best player in the field? Well, we just said all of them, and that was Magnus Carlsen.
Well, Magnus wins his second event of the tour in the season, and not just that. He also, with this incredible performance through starting on Monday in the winner's bracket, taking it through till the grand final, stays there, and then wins in the first set. He also wins the NFT trophy, and you can win that too and book your ticket, a VIP ticket to the season end playoff in Toronto. And right now, it's time to check out the predictions that we had earlier by our experts.
It's been so long, I literally forgot what I said.
But the question is, do you literally not care about this right now?
I literally don't care, but I'm so excited to see it.
All right, are you guys ready for this?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, so the first one. Ooh, I'm wondering if this was Ketty. Is this one of you?
That's gotta be Ketty. It's gotta be Ketty.
And Ketty thought we will have a grand final reset. So Ketty got it wrong. This one, Magnus taking it in the first set. Let's get our other one. David, what is that?
Some weird
I
pictures.
don't know if you can zoom into what is going on
Danny.
here. Some
It's Danny.
painting.
That's Danny's
Danny, is
one,
that you?
I was drawing. That's a teddy bear.
And then he's put Simon as a bird.
And then there's a close-up of this. Simon says, yes, we'll have... Danny says, yes, we'll have a grand final reset. And Simon as a bird.
Love Danny.
Love Danny.
It's a
Simon,
love. It's a love note. That's all it is.
We're going to give this
I
to you to
thank
keep
you.
forever.
I can frame
That's
that later.
a love letter for you.
Cheers, boss.
Ooh, wow.
Can I change my answer, Tanya? I have a poem here that I wrote. It was a bit too late, but I would love to read it out for you.
Wow, is this? Oh, you do have it. Yes, please.
I have a poem. So, roses are red, chessboards aren't blue. Magnus or Wesley, I don't have a clue.
Ooh.
Lovely.
That was beautiful.
But my prediction was wrong.
That was
Beautiful stuff.
But not as beautiful as your prediction, because you did get it wrong. Another yes for the grand final reset. And David goes on to predict in reset 2 draws and Magnus wins in an Armageddon. You got all of them wrong. All right, it did not happen. And finally, what on earth is this?
Is that my artistic side?
Let's get a close up in this.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a portrait of you, but actually, I think it's more like a horror script there.
Wow.
Yeah, my artistic side wasn't quite on today.
That was when Tanya was crossing her arms because she was so mad at us because we all refused to write things down. That was when you were mad. That was your angry pose. You were standing there and we were all refusing to write.
I'm going to frame this. But you're the only one who got it right.
There you
Simon.
go. Yeah, no
A
surprise
big no
there.
here.
Big no. So, yeah.
A really big no and a really nice portrait of me. Thanks, Sai. I love it. Going to get this framed. And we will talk more about the final results of the Aimchess Rapid in all the divisions right after this break. Stay with us.
Airthings Masters, Chessable Masters, Chess Kid Cup, and now Aimchess Rapid. They all lead to one thing: the Champions Chess Tour finale. The finale will be played between December 9th and 16th in Toronto, Canada. The top 8 players from the season will compete to be crowned the 2023 champion. 3 spots are already taken, and the remaining 5 will be decided in the upcoming tour events. So follow us to see who will join Magnus Carlsen in Canada in December.
Two more events remain to decide those 8 players into that Champions Chess Tour season end playoff. And it all comes down to the action in Division 2, the players who will qualify for the next Division 1. Ketty, the last time we checked in, there was a big Armageddon. What happened?
Well, we don't have winner yet in Division 2 because Savian won the match he lost earlier, and he came from the losers bracket, Tanya. So Denis Lazovic has another chance, and now in the Division 2 we have rest of the match. They're gonna play 2 more games. Right now, maybe they have already started to play. Here we can see Denis Lazovic in his room. He is very focused.
Trophies and the chess books at the back.
And a lot of medals. He has won a lot of events. And we have Sam, very focused. they are playing so many games against each other. And they have played also at Pro Chess League. So they know each other so well, Tanya. And they are making a lot of draws, and it goes to Armageddon. So what happened in Armageddon? Denis Lazovic had white pieces and more time on the clock. He got a huge advantage on the board. He was completely winning, and then in the end game somehow he missed his chances. He then lost his bishop, and it ended up in the rook and the bishop versus rook end game. And the game was ended in 50 moves. That was the rule that the computer automatically ends in a draw, and that's why Sam Savian got that victory with black pieces and got the right to reset the match. And now they're gonna play another match.
That's insane that Sam Savian was able to make those 50 moves in an Armageddon.
That's incredible, really. The speed how they played and the moves how they played, that was amazing to watch.
Incredible action there, and it does continue. And what about Division 3?
Division 3, we have a winner. I'm not surprised that Yu Yangyi won, because he was just dominating the whole division. And this is, I think, very normal that he just won. He was a heavy favorite in this division. He got $5,000, which is really, really nice prize in the 3rd division. And yeah, he's in a good shape after Global Chess League. He also had a very nice tournament there. He just won another event.
Congratulations to Yu Yangyi that with a dominating performance, winning the grand final. He goes back home with $5,000 and 20 tour points, and the big fight is on in Division 2 with so much at stake. Big winners all around in the Aimchess Rapid, but right now the big question is who won when Danny and Simon had that Oslo Chess Challenge taking on many Blitz games. Who won more games? Trash talking was allowed. Take a look.
Grandmaster Simon Williams, Ginger GM, and I are about to play a whole bunch of chess players. And in 40 minutes, we're going to see who can rack up the most wins, non-stop, Speed Chess Championship style. The clock is running. And we're also secretly keeping track of who is the best trash talk, but we already know who wins that. And so we'll see if he can keep up. I'll be gentle. Let's go. Clock starts. Simon has a distinct advantage because his openings are so bad, they tend to get more blunders.
Look at this bat, look at this slow positional chess going on over it. Three.
Okay, I'm coming for you. We knew when he showed up in his tank top, he meant business.
Come on, fight, man. Fight, man.
There we go. That's the subtlety you didn't see at the end of the line. I'm in the lead. Simon, sack your queen. Sack your queen. Come on. I'm freaking out here. Where's the win, bro?
Take your time, Danny. There you go. There's another one. Pressure's on.
I'm playing against 2 enemies here. Simon Williams and the clock. The Dutch is an opening he plays, which should tell you how good it is.
Yeah, I took his course, but really bad.
There you go. Bad idea. First mistake.
Can I give you a little bit of rules for trash talking?
Yeah.
You can trash talk if you're doing okay on the board. Yeah. If you're doing terrible on the board, you don't really have the right to trash talk. God, this is too close to call, yeah? Oh, for f***'s sake. Jesus Christ.
David, this is not what we talked about, man.
What have I done?
You're doing well, man. You're doing well.
Wow, really? Wait. He wants to draw.
Oh, I actually missed my queen was on pre. Shit, man. Oh, no. Oh, no, not the grind, man. Not the grinds. The David grinds. This is not fun. Oh, bloody oh, look at this. What is this? What is this?
Simon, I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm feeling it.
You're feeling it. You're in the vibe now.
I'm in the zone. Oh, here we go. He's back. Oh my gosh, I'm falling apart here. I'm messing this game up.
You're messing up?
Yeah.
Come on, man. Come on.
It's not going good.
Come on.
It's not going good. So
and you got David to come as well, just to put a little bit of pressure on. Just, Danny, we're even. How's your position looking, Danny? Oh, as soon as I open my big mouth.
Reject.
Come on. Come on that board.
I got a little wild. All right. But I survived. All right, what's the score? How much time?
I think it's even, man. It's even.
No, it's not even.
I think it is. What's the score?
No,
it's even. I've been winning a couple of games here, man.
Yeah.
Look at that face. I love it. Can we just get a picture of that again? One more time.
How is that possible?
Wow, what is this?
What is this? I have no idea.
He swindled me.
I tend to perform better on camera. That's a little known fact.
What's happened here? I've blundered.
If I beat David Howell.
Wait, you blundered back.
Yeah! Get in there, son.
Oh my gosh, it was over and I blundered my rook.
This is real.
No!
No, he's still playing me.
Yes!
Oh, my words, man. Oh, no.
I feel like the score got away from me. How do you beat David Howell and lose anyway? It all comes down to Tanya Sachdev.
What's the king doing over there?
Exactly like we
Well done, Tanya. Well done. Oh.
What do you want? You want white or black?
I don't mind. Black's fine.
Black's fine?
Black's fine. Yeah,
For the draw?
yeah.
I'm a little
perplexed, yeah? So am I.
I'm a little perplexed. I'm a little...
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know about that one. I have my doubts.
I'm actually not sure what happens next here.
No.
That's my problem. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. But hold on, I've got more. I've got more coming.
It's a little bit scary.
Mm-hmm.
Shit.
Everything is working out.
How did you get this going?
I don't know, but I'm very excited about it.
This is nasty, man.
Everything feels good again.
That looks like the move, yeah?
I almost blundered into the...
my last trick. My last trick. I was just like trying to do a little bit of calm talking there.
You did.
And it
you
didn't
were
quite
massaging my ego. That's my weakness right
no,
there. You
no,
did
no.
it. I take it, though. I take it. All right. Barely.
You guys.
Hi.
Dear, oh dear, oh dear. How did you manage that, Danny? How much did you pay these guys off with? That's all I'm thinking.
I
still not bitter. I'm still not bitter at all.
We talked about it when we weren't on camera. Let's be honest, what you said. Like, you gave that away, man. It was in hand.
Yeah. It makes it even worse. Makes it even worse. I had it there. I had the win, and you all just... Actually, you all took me down. Oh my God! All three of you took me down. I can't just look at one of them.
Thank you.
It was a whole lot.
Yeah, it was great.
Simon, now I understand this painting. Now it all makes sense. Why he drew this. But who won the trash talking competition that day?
I mean, I'd like to think I did. I think it was a clean sweep.
Nah, no chance.
No chance.
No chance. You got to give me something. Come on, just I'll take a draw. Would you take a draw?
I'll take a draw on the
trash talking draw.
I'll take a draw on the whole thing. It was great.
We'll go for a draw.
Some love there, but there were no draws today on the board with a clean sweep by Magnus Carlsen in the Aimchess Rapid. He always stayed in the winner's bracket, and let's take a look at the tour standings with just 2 events remaining and Magnus Carlsen at the top of the leaderboard. He's already punched his ticket to the season end playoff. Fabiano Caruana in second place. Very important for him to keep that up because 3 places so far will be decided on tour standings. Then we see Nodirbek, Abdusattorov, Hikaru Nakamura and Wesley So, the runners-up of the Aimchess Rapid. And Danny, with the finish line in sight, the tour points are getting super critical.
Super critical, especially because there's a few players all within, what is it? It looks like 15 points, right? If you go from Maronian to Fedoseo to Jordan, Von Forest, it seems like Wesley and Fabi have borderline clinched their spots, right? Because Wesley's already in Division 1 next time. He'll get some points. And so those 2 guys are likely in Toronto, but you've got a third spot now because Magnus won this event that is going to go to somebody right there. So it's actually fascinating. Again, that third spot only opened up because Magnus just won this. But if you assume Wesley and Fabi will continue to perform, it's really going to come down to the wire for that final spot.
Yeah, I think the last event or so is going to be really, really exciting. I mean, it kind of looks like Wesley's safe there, but I mean, those other places, I mean, anything can happen last event or two.
Yeah, it looks like Wesley and Fabiano have insurmountable leads, but we saw on 10th place Denis Lazovic. For him, this final that he's playing right now could be critical. And I mean, we could come down to a situation in the final tour event, looking at Division 2, Division 3, watching a game there, because, yeah, it might come down to those few points. And, these standings,
it's a great
big
point.
time for, plenty of time for a shake-up.
And we can see, actually, after the 5th place, again, there's a really close fight. So it's open for anyone as the action continues. There's so much to play for. It's going to be a $500,000 season end final. And what a week of chess we've had. So much drama at the Aimchess Rapid. David, what was the highlight for you this week?
It's got to be Eduardo Iturzaga's dream run, doing so well, winning all of our hearts. I probably stole everyone's answer there, but for me, that was, the highlight.
Simon.
Getting some free Puma gear. Got some nice trainers out of it. Cheers, guys.
Highlight of my week was sitting next to this guy, working next to him. I have to quickly mention Iturrizaga and So turning it around, because those things kept us focused and in it, and Iturrizaga, the heartstrings. But this has been great.
It's been fun. It's been a load of fun. Yeah, definitely.
Guys, group hug?
Group hug?
Yeah, we can do a little hug. Here we go. This is a hug.
Come on, Tanya.
Hold me.
I'll hold you, Danny.
This was
I've got you, man. I've got you.
We will be back with the next event. It starts, mark your calendars, from August 30th. There will be the play-ins before. Don't miss it at all. We will be back with the Champions Chess Tour. Goodbye, chat.
Oh, hello.
Ooh, and now the second to the clock, and Wesley done that. 3-second walks into a pin. And that is it. Wesley resigns.
Oh, what?
And he reacts, and Wesley celebrates there. He wins his first game. Wow. Magnus Carlsen with the black pieces delivers checkmate. There he is. What a performance he's had today in his grand final.